Just because someone got hard doesn't mean they can't go soft.
All right. Well, welcome back to the IMNerd podcast, guys.
Oh shit! I'm not recording any of that.
I was.
Sick. That's dope. I need that audio so I can put it in the start. Anyway, I gotta start recording. Hey guys, this is the start of a recording that was already being recorded.
Anyway, welcome back to the IMNerd podcast. I am your host, Freyway, and I'm here with my co-host, Kenny.
Who's
And
no longer hard.
we are back officially. I hope that you guys are excited. It's 2023 now, so happy new year to everyone. We got a lot of patrons over the last couple of days at the end of the year. And I think that, you know, it's a combination of Kenny and I's hard work and all of the exclusive content we've been putting up on our Patreon, like the 2 Master series, the Master and the Pupil, and all the video episodes that we have and stuff. So thank you guys so much. If you've recently joined the podcast Patreon, and if you've already been on the Patreon and been rocking with us for months or years, literally some of you have been with us for years, which is crazy. We're going on our 2nd year right now. We're like a year and a half into doing this, and it has just been a journey. I'm really excited about just getting back to podcasting. It's been a long time. Like, I feel like we took a week off, maybe a week and a half at the end of the year for the holidays to spend time with our family and friends, and that was really fun. So we're going to
more than, was it just a week? I feel like it was more.
It was. So our last episode was like around before Christmas, I guess. So it was a little over a week, I want to say.
Yeah.
But you know what? I will say this year, for some reason, the holidays seemed really long. Like, my break,
It did.
it just seemed long. It usually doesn't, but it seemed really like I had a lot of time. It just seemed like I had a lot of time. So
it also just felt like I had just a lot of different shit to do. And I think when it's weird, like when you're in the mix of doing things, right? Sometimes it feels like it happens so fast, and like you wait so long for something to happen, and then it's like, oh my God, it's over already.
Yes.
But then when you look back at it, depending on the amount of things you did, it feels like it was really long. Like, we did a lot over those holidays, so it's like, man, we did a lot of shit, so it feels like it was a long time. I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt like a long time, though.
Are you back in your room?
I am.
Okay, I noticed immediately that you seem to be back in your original room. So when we first started the podcast, Kenny was podcasting out of his room, as do I. But then some tragedies happened with like his roof or some crazy shit. And next thing you know, he's been podcasting out of a closet for the last several months. It's been a long time, actually. It's almost been probably a year.
It's been a year.
Yeah, like literally a year. So you are now back comfortably in your own room, which is great. I'm happy for you, King.
I am. Dude, I don't think the world understands. It's, you know how they say, like, you don't understand privilege, right? If you've always had it, right?
Yeah.
If you've always had privilege, you don't understand what it's like to not have it.
It's like rich kids. They don't take
shit
seriously.
Me sitting at a table right now, like, you don't understand, people, how good it feels to sit at a table, okay?
The power
to sit in a chair at a table, bro. I've been doing this. Oh my God, it feels so good. Like, my back feels better. I went out and bought a 6-foot, you know, like those cookout tables, those white cookout tables.
Yeah, I love those.
I got like a cookout table. It's a 6-foot table. My computer tower's on it. Both my monitors are on it, and I got plenty of arm room. I got a chair. Like, I feel so good. It's amazing.
Well, I'm happy for you, King. I'm happy that you're so happy about it. But I noticed it almost immediately, and yeah, this is good. So we're back in full power, and this episode is essentially going to be a recap of 2022 and just kind of talking about the podcast in general, because a lot did happen last year. A lot of growth for the podcast, a lot of interesting topics. We had a lot of good guests. And
do you remember? I'm cheating though, because I looked it up. Do you remember who our very first guest of 2022 was?
I only noticed because I also cheated and looked it up. It was Dale Bolito, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? So in my head, I thought Dale was actually 2021. So when I saw
Wait 1 second. I just realized, oh, you got to be kidding me.
What?
It's all right. Luckily, you're recording. I might have to do some movie magic and get your audio recording and like overlay it with this video. I fixed it now, but
some sound design stuff going on
in the celebration of me switching to my original setup, you know, unhooking a computer and rehooking it back up, things go awry.
Yes.
And I literally like pretty much just got this all situated like not long before we did this.
Oh wow.
So unfortunately, this video might have some things that went not quite right with it, but
listen, it is what it is. They know we're not perfect, and I don't think they come here for perfection anyway, right? So
I hope not.
But yeah,
I get performance anxiety.
Our first, here you go with the hard jokes again. Our first guest was Dale, which again, I think I Mandela effect myself because I for sure was confused when I saw this a second ago before we started recording. I thought Dale came on the podcast 2021. When we started the podcast June 15th, I think it was June 15th, 2021. Maybe it was July 15th.
No, wait. God, I'm confused. All right, you just keep going. I'm gonna Mandela my whole brain.
I know. So we started the podcast July 15th, 2021. And I thought that our first guest, well, not our first guest, but I thought that one of our first guests was Dale in 2021. But apparently he didn't come on the podcast until the beginning of 2022. And he came on twice in 2022, which is even more crazy to me.
Yep.
That both Dale episodes are in 2022. So that just tells me that year was really long and I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Because
it was a good year.
We had a lot of good guests. I'm actually going to just name some of them. So we had Shu Ping, we had Dale twice, we had Joe Dietrich, we had Marcus Hayden, Chris Lynn, Hydro Pump, Hansel, our two-time national champion. We had TJ Kinsley.
Always gotta say it.
Always. We had Nazar Sarhan. Also sending condolences out to Nazar, who recently lost his mother. So prayers for you, my man.
Okay.
Yeah. I love Nazar. He's one of my favorite people, especially in last year. Like we've gotten closer, just talking more about Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff. And I just love it. Like they say, it really is the friends you meet along the way. So sending condolences out to Nazar.
That's a hard thing to deal with.
Very hard to deal with. We also had Quest come on the podcast as our first optional boss episode, which was really cool. Quest is the only person who actually utilizes some of the perks of our Patreon, like as far as shadow games where you can challenge us to a duel in Edison format. We also had Dominic Couch and Scott Page, which are 2/3 of our team. You're gonna finish that won the last YCS before the pandemic, the 3v3 YCS in Vegas in 2020. We had Cordero, Vexicus 4666. We had Chris LeBlanc, Jesse Cotton, two goats, two people literally in a discussion of best of all time. And then we also had Corey Roca. So there have been a lot of great guests, and thank you for everyone who came on the podcast last year. Like Stango was on the podcast last year, Anthony Simpson was on the podcast several times. Majora,
he was on there a bunch.
Yeah, we had a lot of our friends, like our actual friends that we hang out with in person often and stuff like that, come on. So it was a really good year for guests, and I'm happy for everyone that supported us. If you ever came on the podcast and did an episode with us, or if you ever reshared the podcast on Facebook or whatever, or told anyone about it, or just people who walked up to us like at regionals and just say, hey, I love the podcast. People, when I played them on Dueling Book, even before the duel, after the duel, they're like, I love the podcast. That shit goes a long way. It just makes us not only feel good, but it helps to have that support out there as we continue to grow. So yeah, I'm just really happy. Yeah, 2022 had a lot of cool shit. I guess I want to recap my end of the year celebration. So the week in between that week, like after Christmas, but before New Year's, I had a little celebration get together with my friends. So one of our close friends, Cairo, who currently lives in Korea, he's been living in Korea for 7 years. He came back to the United States for the holidays. He's actually still here right now, visiting his family in all different states and stuff. But he came back, and so we planned like a huge get together type thing at my apartment where there were like 10 people came. Xavier was here, Gary, Medina, Cairo, obviously, Jalen. There was just like Gary's brother Wilson, Luke Feeney came. Wilson. So I had a house full of people. I made banana pudding. We ordered some pizzas. My favorite pizza spot, honestly, the best pizza I ever had in my life, comes from a pizza shop in Philly called Paulie G's. It is fucking crack, and everyone ate some of the pizza, and they all thought it was insane. So that was really cool. Stango was here as well. Guy I do the Master of the People with, Kenny's cousin, one of the best Smash players for Melee. You guys know Stango by now, but yeah, I had a house full of people, and we just dueled. We played Smash a lot. They played Melee. I played Ultimate. We also played a lot of DC, DC until like fucking 3 or 4 a.m. They woke up and played DC again while I was asleep. What else? And there was just a bunch of fun shit going on. Conversations, music, anime music. We just weebed out, had a great time, ate food. Everybody thought the banana pudding was amazing. So I'm really happy that you guys think that my ability to make desserts is really, really cool. But yeah, it was really fun. And one of the only times I've ever done something like that, where I like hosted something at my place and just had a ton of people over there. And I really enjoyed doing that. Although I will say the amount of fucking cleanup and trash after having like 10 guys in your apartment it's a lot. But
you get it, dude. So Christmas Eve, my my dad's house always has like a big family to get together. My
Yeah.
stepmom Christine sets like all this shit up. She does amazing. She does all of this cooking, all of this setup, this huge Christmas Eve party where all the family comes over. And if it was up to my dad, we would not do that because every year he gets so annoyed because he's like, we spend all this money, we open up our house, all these people come, they ruin our house. Like we have to do all the cooking, all the prep, we spend all of the money,
Yep.
and they all just leave and go on their merry fucking way,
Yep.
and nobody helps clean it up. And he was just like, it's annoying he's like, every year we put ourselves. Why do we do this? Why? What are we doing?
It's
Why are we
crazy when
letting
you
these
think
people come
about
here?
the cost of hosting is ridiculous, especially if you
Yeah,
provide alcohol to people too, because alcohol is outrageously expensive as well. The price of food in 2022 has just skyrocketed because of inflation. Inflation's bullshit, by the way. Like, it is complete and utter nonsense. 2022, I don't know what's going on, but like, I am not a fan of the price of just
it's
things.
so weird to me. I understand that I'm not like an economist or whatever. I don't even think I said that word correctly.
You
But
said it well enough.
the basic understanding of like, I don't get why inflation would ever, because here's how I understand it. Inflation happens because they essentially print more money because they need more money in circulation for like the people or whatever, because
Yep.
like there's apparently not enough money out there for us to like satisfy us or sustain us or whatever. So there needs to be more money in circulation so that we can get money, right? But because there's more money in circulation, everything goes up in price. So it doesn't actually solve any problem. So I don't really understand what the fuck is the point in inflation in the first place. Because you give more money to people, but then everything costs more money. So it's not got more money, and it just brings down the value over a dollar globally. What the fuck is the point of it? Like, I don't get it.
Supply and demand. It's
what actually does it solve? It feels like it's only a detriment. Like, I don't understand how it could be beneficial.
It's a band-aid solution if you ever heard of one. It is literally the definition of a band-aid solution. Printing money is always going to be is always going to come with consequences, and that is just the sad reality of the world we live in, specifically America, because we're a capitalist society. But yeah, I mean, inflation is fucking crazy right now. So I ordered 2 large pizzas for our guests.
45
a piece.
Wait, hold on. Back up.
I'm not
Say
joking.
Again?
A piece.
It was $40 a piece?
A piece, Kenny. A piece.
So you spent $80 on 2 pizzas?
I'm not joking. I kid you not.
Bro.
I kid you not. 2 pizzas, and I sent the receipt to Gary because we split the costs. We hosted it together, so I was like, hey, like, you know, I'm going to buy pizzas. I'm going to do all, and we split the cost of the pizzas. The two pizzas literally were $80.
Oh my God.
It's funny you said that number, and I'm like, a piece, because that. It is.
Yeah, I was thinking they were going to be like 20 to 23 a piece.
No, this is not. Like, if we would have got, you know, Domino's or Pizza Hut or some shit like that.
Yeah.
We could, but the point was, I wanted people to have like some really high quality shit. If you come to Philly, please eat at either Paulie G's for pizza or Angelo's. Those are, like, in my opinion, the 2 best pizza places in all of Philly. I think Paulie G's is number 1. And I really don't think it's close, but Angelo's is heralded as one of the best pizza places, if not the best pizza place. I don't agree personally, but I think Angelo's is really good. But Paulie G's uses hot honey on their pepperoni pizza. They have a slice of pizza, or I guess a pie called the Hellboy. And it's a square pizza. I talked about this a little bit in the podcast before, but if you haven't heard the episode before, whatever. It's a square pizza, which I prefer. And it's covered in pepperoni. And they're one of those pizza shops that smothers the pizza and pepperoni. I mean, every single square inch of the pizza is covered in pepperoni. There's no visible openings where there's not pepperoni. So I love that. They stack them too. So there's like cups of pepperoni just stacked on top of each other in certain places. And then they cover it in hot honey, and like they got the crushed red peppers, and it's also a seeded dough. It's crack. It's absolutely crack. And yes, it is a bit expensive, but I'm a person that is willing to spare no dollar for the cost of good food. Like, I will just pay whatever for good food experiences. I just do it every time. I don't care. And that's just how I've always been. And I like to share those experiences with my friends, obviously. So as soon as I knew that people were coming, I was like, we're not getting Domino's. We're not getting Pizza Hut. We're getting the real deal. We're getting the top of the line quality shit. And everybody was like, this is actually just fucking crack. Like, crack. So yeah, that's kind of what I did mainly. And you said you had a Christmas Eve party with your family. Did you do anything for like that week between, or like for New Year's? Because my New Year's itself wasn't really anything special, but
No, so the week in between Christmas and New Year's was
Okay.
really bad for me. There was like a lot going on. There was a lot of kind of just bad things happening. So the week in between I didn't really do anything too exciting. But then and then New Year's Eve I went to work. I work in a
Yeah.
bar and I didn't work Thanksgiving, I didn't work Christmas, and so I worked New Year's Eve.
Okay.
And I didn't really I don't the last couple of years I haven't done much for New Year's Eve anyway. Honestly, I've just streamed like I think the last 2 years on New Year's Eve I just streamed New Year's
Yeah.
Eve and that was a lot of fun. But anyway, I went to work and it was really funny because I thought it was gonna be pretty fucking busy. It was dead. There was like
Oh, I'm
when I,
surprised.
when I walked in there was four people and it's a very popular bar. When I walked in there was four people at the bar and then like all night maybe the max amount of people we had at the bar was like 10. It was
Okay.
never hectic. It was like super, super dead. So dead that at one point I went to the other bartenders and I was like, hey, I'm gonna sit in the back if you need me, like just come get me. I literally sat in the back and watched fucking wrestling. Like WWE was on. I just like turned on the TV and just like sat down and watched
I
wrestling.
was going to say, were you maybe at work early? Like, not to be all up in your business, but like,
No, no.
this is not 4 in the afternoon on New Year's Eve, right?
No, no. I went to work at 8 o'clock at night
Okay.
and I was done at 2 a.m. So I
And
was
it was
there.
just not crowded at any point.
No, it was just like
I expected, because
dead.
I was actually, what's funny, as you were speaking about you working on New Year's Eve, I was like, oh, that's probably actually really good for a bartender, because in
I
my
was hoping it
head,
would be.
I was like, oh, you probably made a ton of money that night, because I imagine a bar would be packed. People probably tipping because out of, people
Yeah, yeah.
in terms of holidays, they're a little bit more generous. It's Christmas and stuff like that. That time, people might come out of their wallets a little bit more. Also, they're drunk. So I was thinking in my head, like, you probably made bank that day, but you're actually like, no, it was
No,
actually not.
it was one of the worst days of the year, and I thought going in, I thought I was going to make a lot of money, and I was like kind of excited because I was like, I'm the kind of person that like I hate working on holidays. I hate because like to me it's like I still have that mindset of being in school. Like I'm off today. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like I still like you do 12 years in school and that becomes ingrained in you that like there's days that you have off.
yeah.
And so like to me I hate the idea of working on Christmas, etc. And but New Year's Eve I was actually excited to work. I was, you know what, fuck it. Like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna actually make some fucking money today. And I got there and it was so fucking dead. And like when New Year's came, like leading up to 12 midnight, there was like 10 people in the bar and like everybody counted it down, but I was just like, man, this is so sad right now. And then it started to get bad because I started to pity the people that were there as customers. What are you guys even doing? I was like, this place is dead. I was like, how much of a loser are you that you're here at this fucking place at midnight on New Year's Eve? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it was bad. Like, it was not good.
So I spent New Year's Eve actually with someone that I'm currently talking to romantically, and we just kind of chill. We played Smash Bros, which was really fun. That was awesome. I showed that I am dominant in Smash Bros, so that was really funny. Like I just, I'm very competitive, and I was able to win every single game, so that was cool. And then we just like talked a lot, and that was, honestly, that was really, really fun. And then after that was over, I started binge watching The White Lotus, and that show, it's an HBO show if you haven't heard of it. I've been seeing a lot of memes and gifs and stuff, little short clips from it, which I had no idea what it was or what the show was about, but it is really fucking good, and it's pretty short relatively compared to other HBO shows. Season 1 is 6 episodes, season 2 is 7 episodes. The two seasons are basically completely separate from each other. Like, it's not a continuation necessarily, except there is one character, or I should say there's two characters from the season 1 that are in season 2, but everyone else from season 1, it's like an anthology type of thing where after that season's over, all of those characters. And the premise of it, just to give like a quick contextual, recap of what it really is about. So there's these really fancy schmancy resorts slash hotels that rich people go to. And the show focuses on, every season has like 13 characters that they introduce you to in episode 1 of each season. And the characters, at first, they have like nothing really in common outside of like, if you came with somebody, they might be your family or your lover or your honeymoon or whatever, but all like, they're all individual people, right? Like if you go on a trip somewhere, you don't know everyone who's at that resort or whatever, but throughout the course of the season, these characters have these interlocking storylines, and they're all so fucking ridiculous as people because they're so privileged and so like gross and nasty in certain ways, or just like crazy in certain ways. And it also pokes fun. It's like a commentary on how Americans are in general, just how, wasteful we can be, how privileged we are, how we don't give a fuck about anything else, how we think the world is basically just whatever's happening in our world, we feel like that's the only thing that's happening anywhere else. So there's a lot of that. And also the actress Sydney Sweeney from Euphoria, she's Cassie, the girl with the really, really nice, Anyway, Cassie is she's in the show in season 1, and she's amazing in this show as well. Really enjoyed her. But Jennifer Coolidge, she deserves every Emmy. I heard she already won an Emmy for season 1. I think that she should win an Emmy or whatever for season 2. She's really fucking good at her job. I mean, she really carries it. At first, I didn't understand her character at all, but I've grown very fond of her. I'm not going to spoil anything about the show, but like, just watch it. Honestly, I think it's really, really worth the watch if you like shows that aren't really about, they're not really about anything in particular. It's just kind of like a good show. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's just a good show.
I know what you mean. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know anything about that show. I have heard of it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting watching, because I only heard about it in passing. It's not even like I read this on the internet. I think I might have heard somebody talking about it at work. Like as I was working, I heard people talking about it, and I just remember I heard them saying that the show sucks. And I just think it's funny because, like, it's just funny the things that you hear from people. I want to see it myself, but I didn't even know it was an HBO show. But I do. The other day you said you were watching the show White Lotus. I know nothing about the show. I couldn't tell you what it looks like. I couldn't tell you if it's animated. I assume it's not animated, but that's my point. I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
But I overheard somebody like say White Lotus and say that it sucks, and I was just like, it didn't mean anything to me. But then I heard you say you watched White Lotus, and I was like, oh, I think I heard somebody talk about that recently.
It's my exact kind of show because the acting and the writing is really, really good. It's my exact kind of show.
I'll watch it.
It's a show that I think that people who like, let's say if you like Marvel movies a lot, like if that's your thing, you're not going to like this show. Because you like bad shit, basically, is what I'm saying. Like, that's kind of.
You didn't have to sneak diss them and then diss them. like you don't gotta. What the fuck?
Like if you thought like, if you just are used to Fast and the Furious, if that's your bar for like, oh, this is a great movie. Like if you like fucking Fast and the Furious, you're not going to like The White Lotus because it is a way more cerebral show than fucking Fast and the Furious. But,
I can see that.
But it is my exact kind of show. Really good acting, really good writing. I think it has like a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's doing really good.
Nice.
Not by just my standards. Not to say that like ratings mean anything or like reviews mean anything, but sometimes they do help to validate, and I'll use them as a weapon in cases like this. So I stand for the show. Also, I just want to say one more thing. If you weren't already drawn into just wanting to watch it, for people who are listening, the show, strangely enough, because it just hit me again. Strangely enough, the show is technically a murder mystery every season. Every season starts with...
Oh, that's all. I mean, if it's done right, that's always interesting.
It's done well. Every season the first thing that happens in the season, episode 1, frame 1, is like someone is dead, but you don't know who it is, right? So they show the FBI or cops or a body, but you don't...
like the end? Like it shows that there's a dead body and then it goes back.
Yes, it shows a dead body and you don't know who it is, but it is going to be someone that you've watched throughout the entire season, and they're going to die at the end, but you have no idea who it is until the very end. And that is actually really cool because no matter what happens as you're watching, you're like, somebody's going to fucking die. And in the beginning, you're like, I can't see where someone's going to die on this fucking resort or like how that's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like
that is a cool premise.
Yes. And then it backs up and it starts from the beginning. But it's really, really cool. And I think the writing is really good. I heard, I cannot verify if this is true or not, but someone did tell me that the guy who came up with the idea for the show, or the guy who's a show writer on it, is actually the winner or a top contestant in like The Amazing Race or some reality TV show that's super popular like that. And the reason why it has a slightly reality TV feel to it is because it's from a top contestant or a winner of a reality TV show. It's his idea for the show. It's not reality TV at all. It's completely scripted.
Yeah.
But it definitely has, because it follows so many people and they're all ridiculous. Like
it has like
TV,
that lens.
It has that lens of like this person is they're not a real person. Like you're just not real. But that's when you watch reality TV, you're like, there's no way Snooki is a real person, right? So like, but she is. So that's kind of the same. It's just scripted. It's really good. It's really good. I'll just leave it there.
That's cool. I might check that. Well, not even might. I think I will check that out.
Yeah,
So.
I think you will genuinely enjoy it because it's also funny. Like it's a funny ass show. It's a ridiculous show. But yeah, 2022 had a lot of cool shit. So I guess for me at the beginning of the year, the two main things that I remember at the beginning of the year, like when I think of 2022, I think of the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, the reboot of Batman, and I think of me getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh, which I did not expect at all. I did not have that on my 2022 bingo card at all. I thought I was done with Yu-Gi-Oh. In 2022, I had been done with it for like 6 years at that point. And out of nowhere, I forget who it was. It might have been Dale Bolito, but somebody told me that there was a stream of Edison format, like a tournament happening in January, I think, or February, something like that. They told me that there was a stream happening of an Edison tournament, and I turned it on while I was exercising in my living room because I have an exercise bike in my living room. And I was exercising, I turned it on, watching it on YouTube, and it actually was Dale Bolito playing against an opponent. And I watched the duel. I saw how slow paced it was, how back and forth it was, how they had to make reads, Mirror Force, Torrential, Bottomless, Deep Prison, all that stuff, right? I'm seeing all of this stuff. I'm remembering the format because I actually played in Edison, the actual Shonen Jump Championship, and I was getting intrigued. I watched that game, then I kept watching. And honestly, that Saturday, I spent the entire day on E3 Yu-Gi-Oh! Channel watching Keegan do commentary on this RBET tournament. And slowly but surely, my Yu-Gi-Oh! Spirit started to get ignited again. And I didn't know at the time that, like, holy shit, this is going to be your re-entrance into the game. But little by little, I started to just find myself watching more content on this format and like studying then that website, edisonformat.com, and just how detailed it was and how there's all these decks. There's plenty of deck lists and they're downloadable, but you can just click the image and download it right into Dueling Book. Tournament top eights. They have a ton of, all the rules are there. Every resource that you could need. Honestly, Edison format is more flushed out than any modern format of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's actually absurd how supported it is by, mind you, it is supported completely by just the community itself. Like, it's not Konami who made the website edisonformat.com. It's literally people who are just that enthusiastic and honestly that nice to put together something so well that it's just the best resource. I've never seen anything like this for Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's cool. Yeah, I love when a community really ends up supporting something like a format, and it's something that can almost only happen if it's not being supported officially. But like, look at Melee or look at Pokemon like Smogon,
Project
look
M.
at like Edison form, like these things when they get supported in a way by the community and they create these huge community resources, it's great. Or even like outside of something competitive, right? Like look at the resources for something like Monster Hunter, especially like like Monster Hunter with having like old Monster Hunter games with like the tons of info and translations and what things actually do.
Old
like
Monster
when a
Hunter,
community gets in this shit, it's insane.
Yes, I can speak to old Monster Hunter because I actually played all the old games, and back then, me and my friends were so fiendish over playing Monster Hunter that we would download the Japanese versions of the game where there's no English text whatsoever, and we would wait until the community on GameFreak.com or GameSpot or whatever, they would come up with English patches that you could then, we had homebrew PSPs back then, and so we would install English patches on these downloaded Japanese games and play them. That's how much we wanted to, but that was only possible because of the community. Like obviously Nintendo is not helping us to do that, or I guess at that time it wasn't Nintendo, it was Capcom and Sony, but they weren't helping us to play this Monster Hunter portable game that didn't come out in America at all. We had to go out and find it, and it was highly supported. There was even a guy that when the games came out in English eventually, there were people that you could send your save data to that will convert your save data from Japanese to English so you didn't have to start over again when it came out officially in this country. That's how
insane.
It was like a guy that you would email him. He'd be like, hey, I know that a lot of you have sent me your stuff. I haven't gotten to it yet. I will after work today. Like this man had a full-time job, will come home and literally one by one convert people's save data and send it back to them and not send you any weird, there'll be no viruses, no bullshit. Like genuinely just a good person, and he wasn't getting anything. And then eventually somebody was like, yo, I want to donate something to you. Please give me a way that I can send money to you. Like people, and
the donation link.
And I ended up sending the guy $15. I literally, me and Medina were so happy that something like that existed because I got Medina into Monster Hunter. He's one of our friends. I got him into Monster Hunter, and me and him were like, yo, this is so fucking cool. And I was like, I'm sending this guy some money because I just feel like the fact that we don't have to start over when everyone else gets the game, because we were ahead of it. We played it in Japanese, and then everyone else got it here. All of our friends were starting to play it, but I was like, damn, I want to play with them too, but I'm not starting over. Like, I'm not starting my character. All that hard work. I had like 300 hours in the game or some crazy shit. It's like, I'm not doing all that again. And he converted our save data for us. It worked. And next thing you know, we were like, yeah, this is insane. Like, so yeah, communities, when a community gets behind something and they really want to make it work without the help of the actual owner of whatever the IP is, it is just really, really cool, as long as that owner doesn't come in and try to like crush that community. And what's happening right now with Yu-Gi-Oh! With Edison format is the opposite of that. Konami
embraced.
It's being embraced, and they're supporting it, and they've created a Light and Darkness Dragon mat, which is oddly specific, and it shows that they are blatantly aware that Edison format is really popular, so much so that the last couple YCSs in person, they've had Edison side events. And the one that I went to in Pasadena, if you didn't hear that episode, there's a whole episode on YCS Pasadena in November, because there were technically two of them last year. But the one in November had 50 Edison side events, and that is absurd. There were only 10, I think, GOAT format side events, maybe less. Definitely wasn't more than 10. So just to put in comparison, modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is obviously the biggest format of Yu-Gi-Oh! It always will be. But then Edison is by far the second most popular format of Yu-Gi-Oh! And again, I just didn't see it on my bingo card that I would be playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever again in my life, because I was just done with the game.
Yeah.
But then it's cool that I picked up on a boomer format that is actually not just some niche format that only a couple people are playing, and Konami doesn't care about it, and honestly the community doesn't care about it.
Hundreds of people are playing it.
And at the end of the year, because of where Yu-Gi-Oh! Was with the tier elements and the Flunderies deck and stuff, where it's kind of stale, it's pretty much a tier 0 format. Like, not literally, because tier element isn't completely unchecked by anything. Like, there's Dimensional Shifter and Flunderies and stuff like that. Like, the Philly Regional a couple weeks ago was won by Flunderies. That deck went 10-0. So, just to put in perspective, there are decks that technically could contend with it, and they're actually doing well in the format as well. But because the format is so oppressive, where if you're not playing basically those two decks, you might as well not be playing at all. That just ostracizes a lot of the community. A lot of the casuals who want to play their random decks, they literally can't survive when they're just being milled out of the game, or just Flunderies comboed out of the game. So what happens is people look for alternatives. In 2010, during Frog FTK format, I ran away from Yu-Gi-Oh! To play Magic the Gathering. This time, instead of running to a completely different card game, I was able to run to a different format of the same card game, which is really cool. And that's what a lot of people are doing. So a lot of the pro players in Yu-Gi-Oh! Modern format right now, like Chris LeBlanc and all those guys, like, they're playing Edison format as well as modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Which
is pretty cool. Yeah. Something that like other card games. Okay, let me errata that. Something that Magic the Gathering has done for a long time is that they have a wealth of formats that like people play. Like, if you talk to anybody that plays Magic the Gathering, like, they can tell you like 6 different formats that they know how to play of that game. And it's like, some of them have like completely different way the rules work and shit.
But Commander format, the EDH and all that. Like, there's so much.
It has a lot. And Yu-Gi-Oh! And honestly, most card games never really had that. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Is old enough now where there's a wealth of cards, a wealth of knowledge, and just like of play styles where you can do that. And like the way modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is played, it doesn't feel like it's the same game anyway.
It really does feel like I'm playing 2 different games. Like, because I've now played modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Technically, I played September 2020 format with one of our Patreon, with Quest, and that was my first time ever link summoning. It was my first time playing modern, but I could just tell the power difference in that format and just in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! It's absurd. Like, he literally basically died turn 1. I went first game 1. I set up a ridiculous field with dinosaurs, and he lost on turn 1. Like, the game was over turn 1.
Yeah, so, and that just it feels different, because I don't remember who said it. It might have been you or me. It might have been one of our guests. But in Edison format, and then just like there's formats of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you did lose. It might have been Luke Feeney, actually. You did lose turn 1, but it doesn't feel like you lost turn 1 because like you play 7 more turns before. And like some people might say like it's the same thing, but it's not, because like there is a chance you get out of it.
Yes.
And you know, it just feels different. Like you have to play the game.
Yeah, that matters to me. That matters a lot. The fact that I get 7 turns where if I draw certain cards that I have in my deck that I put in my deck for that exact reason, that if this were to happen, if I'm going second against established boards and stuff like that, I might be able to draw out of this. Or if my opponent messes up, I might be able to capitalize on it and come back. And I've done it many, many times on my way to top many, many events in my time. So
it's harder to perfectly do what you need to do over the course of 10 turns than it is on one turn.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I really like the idea of Edison format being supported. And
that's just their one turn takes 30 minutes. So is hard to do. That is hard to do as well. And like playing around the hand traps, it's a lot. It's just a different game. It's a whole different experience.
It's a really different game. So when I'm playing Edison and when I play Modern, they do feel like completely different games. Like literally in Modern format, I set no traps at any point. At no point did I set a trap. I just went summon summon Dolka, summon Abyss Dweller, summon the big ass dinosaur dude, superconductor, ultimate conductor Tyranno, and like a bunch of other. I had a full field, a full grip in my hand, and I think my graveyard had a miscellaneous source for next turn for follow up. And my opponent's like, all right, draw to 6. And I can't deal. Like I literally can't.
Format was miscellaneousaurus at 3 or 1.
It was at
format
3.
You played.
It was at 3.
Oh my god,
bro! When I tell you, every game, the videos on YouTube. So if you haven't seen what I'm talking about, this is, mind you, obviously I misplayed in that video. I'm sure somewhere because I literally never played that format in my life until that duel. And all I did was, it's crazy. All I did was go on YouTube, look up the dinosaur deck, look up dinosaur combos. I memorized a few combos, like literally 2. I memorized 2 combos, okay? And that was it. And that was me playing, and I won all the games. I just memorized the combos. That's all I did. Now, I'm sure if somebody who was super competent and like a top player in 2020 and all that played me, they probably beat me. But it was good enough to beat like his deck, and apparently it was his worst matchup and stuff like that, which was really funny because I don't know any of that. He was like, "Oh, this happens." He's like, "I did not expect you to be playing fucking dinosaurs. There's so many decks you could have played. This was the worst possible one for me." And
wow.
But I memorized combos that I saw on YouTube, which is honestly a big part of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is knowing these combos because they're really long. Discard miscellaneousaurus. Get the little blue 1-star dinosaur. He pops a baby in my hand. Then he searches out the pill. Then the baby summons Overraptor. Overraptor is Stratos on crack. Overraptor searches out a baby. Summon the baby. Overraptor has a second effect where he pops the baby, brings back a dinosaur. So you pop baby, bring back baby. Then baby summons another guy out of your deck. You can either summon the 4-star guy, and if he's banished, he gets summoned again. Or you can summon miscellaneousaurus to have follow-up. You overlay, you make Dalka. Your opponent can't play Nibiru at this point. They can't fucking hand trap you at this point. And then if you put the Dalka in defense mode, they can't hit you with Lightning Storm. And so after that, you play the pill, and then the pill brings out the fucking big old ultimate conductor Tyranno, and then you still have the baby sitting there. So you have like a bunch of interactions with your opponent. Then the deck plays a lot of hand traps like Ash Blossom and Gamma and Nibiru and all this other stuff. And it's just ridiculous. Like the whole thing's ridiculous. Then I had a random copy of Mystic Mind and set rotation in my deck, and Jurassic World or whatever it's called, is ridiculous. Lost World, I think. Card's insane. And I was like, yo, I low key, not gonna lie, I kind of like this. Like I was like, this is toxic. What I'm doing.
That's a fun deck. I learned how to play that deck on Master Duel.
Speaking of which, Master Duel came out in 2022, and
February, I think.
Yep, and you were playing it for a while, so there was a period where you were like more into Yu-Gi-Oh than me, which was so funny.
Yeah, I was playing Dragon Maids and Dinosaurs. Dragon Maids were first, and then I learned the Dinosaur deck, and because dinosaurs are cool, and that deck is really fun. And everything you just said, like I remember doing, and like it feels so. But miscellaneousaurus is at 1 in that. I think it is.
It's a big difference.
I'm pretty sure it's at 1. But when you get him off, it's just like you feel so good because you're like, all right, well, there's nothing they can do now.
Yeah, you
like,
literally can't affect
he happened, and now I can just do whatever the fuck I want.
That is such a weird thing.
Yeah, and then you summon the big guy, you book a moon their field, and then you kill their field, doing 1,000 to each guy, and then like you attack with the rest of your guys, and they die. And you have like Dolka and Lagia on the field, and it's insane.
It's really good. It feels really, really nice because of how oppressive it is and how consistent it is. Well, the one I played was super consistent because Miscellaneous was at 3, Overraptor's at 3. Honestly, I think everything in my deck was a 3 of, like Jurassic World, I keep calling it Jurassic World. It's Fossil Dig, Lost World, Overraptor, like everything was at 3. All the babies, everything. I had 3 of basically everything. And then I had like some tech choices. I think I had that Dino Wrestler dude that's 2600.
Yeah,
Pankratops. And I had 1 copy of that Kaiju. There's a dinosaur Kaiju.
Yep.
He's the fire one. And I like him too because he breaks boards. So if they let your Overraptor resolve and they have an established board, well, guess what? Now I just break your board for free and I could probably continue my combo or get out of it. So yeah, that was really fun. I actually enjoyed playing that specific format. And I was like, okay, modern is still modern. It's a different game, but it is not bad. Like it is not as
It's not
bad
bad at all.
Yeah.
It's just a different game, and if it's not the game you want to play, like they're both called Yu-Gi-Oh,
Yes.
but like one of those games might not be the game you want to play.
Yes.
And that's all it is.
Stengo plays Smash Melee and he plays Project M. And when he is forced to play Ultimate, he often gripes about how different Ultimate is. Like it's not the same game. They're both called Smash Bros. Though.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like they're both called Super Smash Bros., but they are very different games. And so I just, liken it to that when you said that. That makes perfect sense. But yeah, last year was a return to Yu-Gi-Oh! For both Kenny and I. Kenny spent a little time playing Edison format, and then he played a lot of Master Duel in the beginning of the year. I spent a lot of time playing Edison format, and I ended up buying pretty much every single Edison deck especially at the time, every relevant Edison deck I bought them. I spent like $5,000. By now, I'm probably up to like $6,000 in Edison cards that I purchased over the course of 2022, just because like things kept on coming out, or not coming out because it's a 12-year-old format at that time, but things kept on changing or developing where I just needed more cards. And at one point, I just got this random urge to ice out my extra deck. I love ultimate rare cards, and so I ended up buying my whole extra deck ulti. Like I bought Cataster, Goyo, Stardust, Red Dragon, Thought Ruler. All the things that come ulti, if they could be ulti in my extra deck, they're all in my extra deck ulti, and that is my favorite rarity in Yu-Gi-Oh, especially old ultis. There's just something about them that looks so fucking creamy. So I bought a ton of those, and that was very expensive. That was honestly outrageously expensive. But my logic is, at the end of the day, with how expensive Yu-Gi-Oh cards have become in the last few years or whatever, I imagine that I won't sell them at any time because I don't need the money or anything. So what'll happen is I'll hold them for, I don't know, decades. And eventually, Ulti Stardust, Ulti Red Dragon, Ulti Black Rose, and all that shit will be an absurd amount of money, more absurd than they already are. Because I remember back in the day, like they were just, you could just buy them for like, I don't know, $50. Like here's $50 for your Ulti Stardust. And like somebody would definitely do that.
I don't even know if they were that much.
I know. I feel like I'm overshooting a bit.
Yeah.
Like I legit, because Stardust came Ghost, Ulti, a 10. There was a Stardust 10. And he came ultra rare in the set that he first came out in. Like he was just an ultra rare. So
at that time, his value wasn't high because anybody could get Stardust.
He was very, very regular. And yeah, you're probably right. Like 50 might have been an overshoot because the Ghost one was the most expensive one always. But and I don't even want to talk about the price of those now. But yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh had a nice resurgence for me, and I'm actually happy that happened because I honestly don't know what I would have filled a lot of my time with last year if I hadn't gotten back into the game. Like it's so weird to think about.
Found something.
I'm sure I would have found something.
Weird. It is so interesting. It's like when it's like how we give credit to things, right, that did something first, right? And it's like at some point somebody would have done it, right? Like at some point somebody would have made like the Ocarina of Time, right? Like people give Ocarina of Time credit for like starting and doing a lot of things for gaming, right? At some point somebody would have made that game, but like Ocarina of Time did it first, so like they get the credit for doing it first.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point that I'm getting to is like it is weird when you think about everything you've done in a week, a month, a year, and you go like, like if I didn't do this, I would have done nothing. But like, you would have done something.
Yes, I would have done something.
Gets the credit because that's what you did.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what it would have been.
Yeah, because like it could have been, you could have ended up fucking, you could have started doing crack. Who knows?
Oh my fucking goodness!
Maybe you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Something happens.
Not me living 30 years to do crack. Like not me making it to fucking 30 years old just to fucking start doing crack cocaine. That is insane. Anyway, thank God it was Yu-Gi-Oh instead, because the alternative, according to my co-host here, is literally crack. Yeah, I do sometimes think about that because look at what's happening now where the Patreon, like for the Patreon, I'm now doing exclusive Yu-Gi-Oh content on Patreon. That could only be possible because I got back into Edison format last year. So it's like the way our evolution in our life and everything evolves is so interesting to think about. But that is literally the essence of life. Like you said, like you would have done something, right? It would have been something else, but I would have done something. Like maybe I would have watched more anime. I'm behind on a ton of anime right now. I still haven't beat God of War Ragnarok. I still haven't played Breath of the Wild yet. So there's other things that probably would have occupied my time that, but Yu-Gi-Oh ended up taking up a good chunk of my 2022, and I'm happy it did. Like I even traveled for Yu-Gi-Oh, which is even more crazy because I went to basically 2 YCSs last year. I went to Pasadena twice the cancel one and the real one. And you know, I had that incident where I almost lost my luggage. That was fucking awful. That was the beginning of the year. And the beginning, my year would have went so bad if my luggage would have got stolen by that
That's
random
how it
girl.
started. Holy shit! Could
Yes,
you
that
imagine if
it would have been
like
a really bad year.
your year started with just losing all of that? Oh
Yeah,
my god!
because my camera was in it, like my really expensive Sony camera that I use to take my Instagram pictures and stuff. A lot of stuff that are sentimental to me, things that matter only to me, or things that just have
Yeah,
high value. They're just worth a lot, regardless of who has them. They're just worth things, and like no one wants to lose any of their shit. Period. So that would have been the beginning of a terrible year, but that, you know, it didn't happen, thank God. And the year ended up being, honestly, 2022 was a good year for me because I was annoyed with I was over the pandemic. Like 2021, 2020,
mm,
you know, the pandemic happened and like all the masks and the vaccines and all the Omicron and the variants and all that bullshit. I was just so over all of that. And then the monkeypox nonsense. Like, I'm just not a fan of any of it. So I'm glad that 2022 was like the country just being open again, where people weren't forced to wear masks anymore, social distancing calmed down, like all it is worried about checking your vax card calmed down for the most
yeah.
part.
For the most part, 2022. I mean, obviously, there's still like a lot of people that wear masks, and there's still like benefits to, but it for the most part felt kind of like it felt like you could kind of go out and do whatever you wanted again. Like it just
Yeah,
felt like,
like
at
things
least in
opened up
Philly, like it
again.
felt like it didn't really feel like there was any restrictions on anything. Now there's some things that feel like they'll never be the same. Like I feel like the train schedule will just never like the train schedule will just never be the same. Like they've destroyed it. Like it
Yeah.
how the regional rail runs is like so much worse than how it ran pre-COVID, and I don't know if that'll ever get
Oh,
fixed.
is that true? I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some things that like unfortunately I feel like they'll just never change. It's like the way things change. One thing that changed for the good in my opinion for COVID was like um like workers just like respecting their own time more and being like, you
Yes.
know what? No, like fuck, like why can't I do this at home? Like why do I have to do 1,000 hours in the office and like it's just like interesting how much and like now companies are
So
yeah, go ahead.
you're speaking directly to my life because my life changed a lot, and it is the reason why this podcast even exists, honestly, because now I have the time to do it. Like literally working from home changed my life. Like 2020,
Yeah.
I've been working from home since 2020 March. Okay, it is now almost 2023 March. Like we're closer to that than we aren't. And it's crazy because there was a point in my life where I'm an accountant. I've been working in the office 5 days a week, and that's all I knew. For 10
Hmm.
years, well, at the time, probably like 7 or 8 years, but that's all I knew. And now I can't imagine going into an office,
No
commuting
way.
to work five
For
days a
what?
week.
For what? Like why? Like what's the and it's so crazy because like it opened up the minds of a lot of people and it's like what is the point of you even having this office space? Like why
Yes,
like you guys should be saving money too. Like what like
yes, it's not just exactly the workers are not the only ones who benefit it because obviously companies have leases, and that's a big point of contention because I'm in the business world, so I actually do like lease accounting and stuff like that, and 606, and there's all that stuff. I'm not gonna get into the technical jargon, but there's a lot to say about saving money. For example, like there's utility bills that are obviously zero, no gas, no electric being run in an office with no people in it. My job has a fully stocked kitchen, and that is an expense that they didn't have at all for years. Like no one was in the office at all, so they didn't have to fully stock the kitchen, and a bunch of other little things like that that they do add
if
up
you've
over
gone
time.
food shopping, you know how expensive food is, especially after, like we said earlier,
Yeah,
inflation.
yeah. So there's a lot of benefits to both parties, and I think just in general, having more time to do life things as well as get your job done, it just makes sense. Like now, when I don't have anything to do work wise, because let's be honest, if we're being completely real here, no one actually needs to be working a full 40 hours a week, right? Like,
Yo, I remember reading this is years ago. I remember reading like actually I don't think it was that long ago. Anyway, the point is when you work in an office, right? It's very rare that you actually work 8 hours. Like there's not 8 hours of work to do in a single day most times. There's not 8 hours of work to do in a single day most times. So like a lot of times you spend time kind of pretending to work or just looking busy. There's like this big
yes,
there's this big thing in all work worlds, not just offices, where it's like you have to at least look busy. That
I
way,
hate
like
that.
people don't get mad.
And
Yeah,
I
you gotta
used to
like
be
kind
a
of,
master at that. I hate that. I
and
hate the
like when you're at
idea of
home, you don't gotta
just,
do that bullshit.
yeah, just being on Excel, pretending like I'm busy when I don't have anything to do. And like, it's annoying because really my bosses they're not idiots. Like they know
Yeah,
I don't have shit to do, but I'm salaried. So it's like, yeah, I guess while I have to pay you, you have to be here. But the pandemic showed us that I really don't though. I could be home and I could be doing like when I'm home, I could do my laundry while I also get work done. And then me, a person who's really good at my job and just gets my work done really quickly, I can get done a lot of work in 1 or 2 days and then have a whole week where I'm just like, I'm so ahead of everything that now I can like binge watch shows, I can watch anime, I can do laundry, I can drop things off at the post office, take pictures, go to brunch with my friends. It just made my quality of life overall better. And now this is speaking from the perspective of someone who works in corporate America. You know, essential workers, like their whole world perspective. It'd be interesting to get one of them on the podcast because their world, I'm sure, shifted a lot as well. I just don't know anything about it because my job, we aren't really essential workers technically, but like people who work in the medical field and in certain service jobs and stuff like that. People who just like if you drove public transportation, like that is an essential job. So someone had to still transport people to get to the jobs that were open. And yeah, their world changed too. So it really changed for the better for me. And that's not lost on me. Like I do not take it for granted that this has given me a lot more of my life back. Like my work-life balance is, I don't want to
way
use the
better.
word perfect, but like honestly,
It's a lot better than it was, right?
it is so
So
much better, man.
that's a little tangent for some of the
That
good
yeah,
COVID is done,
yeah.
but it is cool that 2022. It does feel like, for example, I've been working in a bar this whole year, like all of 20. Well, not all of 2022, but most of 2022.
Yeah.
And it's interesting being back because all during COVID and during all that shit, I didn't go to any restaurants. Not because I was personally. Basically, it was just because I didn't feel like dealing with the shit. I didn't feel like either A, getting sick, or B, not getting sick, but still having to deal with like all of the restrictions that came with being
Yes.
in a restaurant at that time.
It
But
is
now,
uncomfortable.
yeah, but now I'm working in a bar and it doesn't feel any different than it was before COVID. And
Yeah,
like
except that you
I've
guys
gone
charge
out.
$25 for a drink. But yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a fancy place. Yeah. Like I said, okay, I can't afford to live in the place that I work. All right, they're fucking
Yo,
expensive.
that every time you say that, that is so wild. Like I work in a place that I literally cannot afford to live in.
It's like,
But that's real. That's very real. But okay, let's get back to like the nerdy shit that happened last year because that's kind of the point of
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
episode
yeah.
anyway. So I mentioned Batman, and I thought that movie was fantastic. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but you should watch it if you haven't. That Batman movie.
No, I've seen so after work one day it was on and
Mhm.
like I had it on, I was watching it and I saw like maybe the first 20 or so minutes, but then it was
Oh,
after work, it was like 2 a.m. so I just passed out.
I actually think that the first 20 minutes of it are amazing too. Like when he's talking about the city and
Yeah.
it's playing that really dark theme, doom, 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 doom. And you see him like basically fighting criminals and stuff like that. The opening of that movie is really, really good. And I think the movie in general, and it also performed really well. Like the movie did, I mean, Batman movies just tend to be box office smashes, right? Like that's just
Yeah.
that since The Dark Knight, they've been absolutely destroying the box office. So the movie did really well. It's rated really well. It's really long, but I actually think that it's really, really good. I also think that Zoe Kravitz looks fucking insane as just a human, but also as Catwoman. And so yeah, that movie's really good. And that's like the beginning of the year for me. But also
That was like maybe March or February.
yeah, like early in the year, first quarter for sure. Like
Yeah.
Q1, this is accounting terms, but Q1 2022 for sure. Batman came out, and also a great year for anime. Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer
That was,
carried.
dude, it's insane because Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer, I remember we did the episode 1 review of both of them
Yep.
in like early January, which it is now January. So a year ago we did Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer episode 1 review, and then whenever they ended up wrapping up, we did a season review of
Yep.
those
Both
anime.
of them, yeah.
But it's just so insane to think that like, don't they both come back out again now in
They-
January?
I don't know if it's January anymore because I actually started looking for the release date for Attack on Titan because I started to feel like I was missing something, and I don't want to just not know that maybe this Sunday Attack on Titan's coming back. However,
Yeah.
I saw that the release date is just now 2023. It doesn't say exactly when for both of them, mind you. So I don't know if we have official, and if you guys listening know the official release dates of Demon Slayer season 3 and Attack on Titan the final season part 10, let us know. But I don't think that there's official, like, this is the exact day when they're going to air. But yeah, we did this last year where we kind of reviewed those, and I just remember watching Demon Slayer, watching Attack on Titan, especially Demon Slayer. Like oh my god, Demon Slayer was so fucking nuts last year. Like season 2, the whole Red Light District arc, Entertainment District arc. I just rewatched the first 6 episodes with my childhood best friend. He came over. We haven't seen each other in like literally a year. So he came over to chill with me over the break, over the New Year's, Christmas break. He came over one day and I was like, hey, did you see the new season of Demon Slayer? Because I remember we watched season 1 together. Like, he didn't see season 1, and he watched all 25 episodes or whatever it was of season 1 in one sitting. Like, sat in my living room and watched from episode 1, got to episode 19, basically borderline cried like I did, then continued the next 6 episodes, saw Muzan as a woman, ended that whole thing. And then I was like, have you seen season 2? He was like, no. I said, oh, well, you have to watch at least episode 6 while you're here. So we started episode 1 of season 2 and watched up to episode 6. And like, when I tell you, because that's episode 6 is where Tanjiro snaps. And when I tell you, my friend, he lost his shit. Like he lost, and I love watching other people's reactions to something that
so good.
Loved, right? Like it's one
so good.
Kenny and I just get off to it.
There's something fucking about knowing how good an anime is and showing it to someone else and like waiting for them to see the thing. Like,
yes,
but it's why everybody hates One Piece fans, because we tell you all to watch One Piece because we love you. That's
we're trying to help.
We can't wait to see your reaction to like the thing and the multiple things and Demon Slayer and Fullmetal Alchemist and Hunter x Hunter, whatever it may be. Like when the thing happens and it gets hype, like it's so fucking cool, and some cool shit, especially with the animation, happens in Demon Slayer season 2.
So we watched the first 6 episodes and then we stopped, and I said, okay, the next time you come over, which will be soon, we'll finish the season, because basically in episode 6 is when his sister transforms, she gets the horn, and it's a really good stopping point too. Like half the season is done, really good stopping point, and then the next 6 episodes are going to blow. I said, you are blown away by episode 6, of course, because it's insane, but you have no idea. Like, he has no idea that the next 6 episodes are going to be even more fucking absurd. Like when Daki's brother comes out of nowhere, like that episode, I'll never forget when there was apparently 2 lower 6 or upper. Yeah, she's upper. When there were 2 upper 6, I was blown away. Like the fact that there's he cut her head off and she was crying, and in that whole confusion part where he's like, why isn't she dead? Like, why is she still talking?
Yeah. Dude, I love the sound ninja.
Oh, he's so good.
Fuck, what's his name again?
Tengen.
It's Tengen. Like Uzui, I think Uzui Tengen or something.
Yep.
Yeah, he's the man.
Yeah, the whole season, brilliant. So that was really good. Attack on Titan, final season part 6 was good.
Stop! Part 6. I mean, to be fair, I do absolutely hate what they're doing. I hate the fact that it's called the final season part, whatever.
These should all just be called separate seasons. Like I don't like. Yeah,
this is season 6. It's not final season part 3 or whatever.
Yeah, I do not like the final season part 8 thing, but I keep making fun of it, and that's why you guys keep hearing me use random numbers like that, because I just feel like it's like Final Fantasy almost, but it shouldn't be.
I also think it's detrimental in a way. So it's beneficial and detrimental. It's beneficial in that when they called it the final season, I think that brought a lot of eyes back to Attack on Titan.
100%
when they first were like, final season, everyone was like, holy shit, like it's happening. And so a lot of people went back, binged it, and got back into it. And then when they found out that like it was only half of the final season, there's actually a part 2, some people were a little annoyed. They're like, all right, you know what, this is still cool. But then when the final season part 2 happened, what everybody thought was going to lead to the end, and that still wasn't the actual final season, that started to really rub people the wrong way. And they're like, dude, what the fuck, this isn't. And so now it's like you brought all the eyes back into it, and like you helped your streaming numbers, but now you're hurting the perception of the show a little bit.
Yeah,
people are expecting something they're not getting.
Yeah, and they feel like it's dragging. Now, a person who is all about plot and storyline, I enjoy every single bit of it, but I do not like the title. Period. But I'm smart enough to not say that the show is like, it doesn't actually affect the quality of the show.
Yeah, but it does hurt some people's perception.
Exactly. And I get that. And it's just, for me, a person like me is like, I get it. It's not going to hurt the show actually, but I am annoyed that every single one of these seasons is also a year apart. You keep calling it final. Like, that is annoying.
Yeah.
But I get, like, I also don't want a rush job though. I don't want a Game of Thrones for Attack on Titan, which may be my favorite ever anime.
But imagine how frustrating it is, right? Like, you watch the final season of Attack on Titan 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever it was, and like that wasn't the final season.
Yeah.
And then you get cancer and die. And you tried to watch the final season of Attack on Titan, and you didn't get to see the final season, and they told you it was the final season, and you didn't get to see it.
I say this often, and it's starting to scare me with the quality of just entertainment now. And honestly, one of the great things about having this podcast where we can just talk about anything. Like, this isn't just a Yu-Gi-Oh podcast. It's not just an anime podcast. It's not just a Marvel podcast, a video game podcast. It's literally anything nerd related, so we can jump around as much as we want. But there's so much content and so much to consume. And one of the things that is scaring me is the quality of content has gotten so fucking high in the last couple years that I want to see everything. I kind of want to live forever now. And I think about, there was a point where I used to say, if I die before Game of Thrones finishes, I'm going to be pissed. Like, I'm going to be in hell pissed. But now Game of Thrones is finished, and there are other things that I don't want to die.
No, it's not. Now it still stands. House of the Dragon exists.
Yes, and that's one of the best things that came out of 2022. Great segue, by the way. House of the Dragon came out and literally revitalized the Game of Thrones franchise. People were there was a lot of shit talking. Rightfully so, though. I'm not mad at the people who were naysayers and were like, I'm never going to watch that shit again. They're going to ruin it. It's going to be so bad.
They were burned, and it's hard. It's, you know how, like, you say, like, once a cheater, always a cheater. Like,
yes.
If somebody cheats on you, like, it's really fucking hard to just accept them back, right?
Yes.
Rightfully so. And so, like, Game of Thrones, it felt like they cheated on us. You know what I mean?
I totally get everyone's anger, but I knew when I heard that the showrunners D&D were not a part of the new series, the prequel, House of the Dragon, when I heard that they weren't a part of it, and then when I also heard that it's based on a finished work by George R.R. Martin, right? So the source material is all there. We also technically know the conclusion of the entire House of the Dragon because it's revealed in actual Game of Thrones as a sideline that Joffrey just says. So, like, technically, it has an ending already that they just have to get to, and all of the things in between are basically there. They just kind of have to fill in the gaps because George R.R. Martin, it's a history book, the Fire and Blood. So basically a history book. So it's not written like an actual novel, but a lot of things are left up to interpretation because it's the perspective of maesters and biased people, which actually
we already talked about, but that's so fucking cool.
Isn't that cool shit?
It's so cool because when you read it, we talked about this in, I don't know, 300 different episodes, but it's cool because it's a history book and it's left up to interpretation of what people saw. Like, for example, spoilers for House of the Dragon, you've been warned. But when Daemon kills his wife in the show, there's a lot of people that are like, he doesn't do that in the books. He doesn't kill his wife. But it's like, the books are a history book. It's not a telling of events from like a God view. It's a telling of events from like other people. So it's like, it's not going to say he killed his wife because they can't say that because, like...
Yes. In the book, it says that he was banished by his brother, the king, right? So that is consistent with what actually happened in the show. He got banished. He got told to go back home to your wife, right? And after that, it says Daemon returned to the Vale and his wife died. She died. And what they said in the book is that she died in a horse riding accident of some sort, something like that. But
she had an accident.
But you can read in between, the lines. Like, yes, it does not say that Daemon took a rock and bashed his wife's head in. But like, anyone worth their fucking weight in salt should know, okay, I see the subtext here. And honestly, a lot of that history book, Fire and Blood, has subtext in it. For example, the Laenor thing where Laenor, he dies, right? Like, Laenor, from the perspective of the Maesters, even in the show, from the... Like, they don't have forensics. Yes, like, he's dead. Like, Laenor, even though we know that he didn't actually die because the show has flushed out that detail, but in the actual Fire and Blood, you know, he dies, but no one really sees him die either in Fire and Blood to confirm 100% that like Laenor is actually like there's no body or anything like that they recover for Laenor in the novel or in the book.
What's so interesting about that too is like, and it's weird because like people get hung up on weird things, and I get frustrated by it because people once again they were like Laenor actually died in the books is what they'll say,
Yeah.
but it's like if you look at it, like think about it, he actually died in the show too. But if you look at this factually from the perspective of anybody writing history, he's dead there too.
Yes.
But we just know he's not because we get to watch. We watch from a God view. We get to see things nobody else sees.
Exactly. So it's really interesting. A lot of things.
Yeah, it's fucking cool.
Also, like this is probably the last one we'll say because we could do House of the Dragon.
If this isn't a House of Dragon episode, we got to move to other stuff.
But like, there's the whole thing with the Strongs, right? So the Clubfoot we know kills his father and his brother, right? Like he kills them in Harrenhal. He sends some goons to burn them up. And he becomes the Lord of Harrenhal and, basically becomes the right-hand man of the evil bitch. I'll just call her Cersei from the prequel. And what's really cool about that is in the novels, it just says that the curse of Harrenhal got them, essentially.
Yeah.
But no one knows that he actually killed them. But in reality, it's like, yeah, in reality, George R. R. Martin said that the show is canon. So what you see in the show, he's like, this is what actually happened. So take whatever you see here as the truth, right? Like there's the history books, there's the Maester's opinion, and there's Mushroom's opinion. Those are the two perspectives in the book. And then there's the truth. And the truth is the show. So he's backing the show really strongly. And I like that because you see, it makes things make more sense when they're playing out on screen to me.
Yeah.
Like he did it for a motive. He thought that he was helping out the queen. He's like, I'm helping you. And she's like, I didn't ask for this. Like, I didn't ask you to fucking do that. Like, if that's what help means from you, don't do anything like that again unless I tell you to do it.
Yeah, unless I show you my feet.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that was in the book at all, but, how could they know? How could the Maesters have known that she shows her feet?
Yeah, yeah.
And that the Clubfoot has a foot fetish. How could anyone have known that the Clubfoot has a foot fetish? So, yeah, really, really good stuff. So, House of the Dragon, that coming back, I guess like my whole old life was just coming back because Game of Thrones and Yu-Gi-Oh! 2022 was a great year. Man. I really loved the return. Also, the fact that episode 2 of House of the Dragon, when they used the theme, because episode 1 doesn't have an opening, but episode 2, when it opens up and it's just the same exact opening theme, I was hype as shit.
Yeah, dude. I was so excited because episode 1 is just like everything's, you just watched the whole episode.
Yeah.
And that week, there was anticipation for me of like, what is the opening sequence going to look like in this show? Because the opening sequence is so iconic from Game of Thrones. And the fact that they did an awesome opening sequence and still used the music was like, fucking thank you so much.
So good.
It was so good. So random transition, but I got to bring it up. It was an important part of the year. This year, we had our 69th episode of the IMNerd podcast. And that episode was a rant. It's rated R, rated X. And,
hentai in class.
There was things talked about in the episode. All right,
it was our sex positivity episode, but also we talked about hentai. Like obviously, Kenny and I are grown, we're adults, and I said many times in an episode, and I say this many times in my real life in general, that I don't care what people are into as long as it's between two consenting adults. Like that is my stance on people's sexuality, on people's kinks, on people's fetishes. I literally don't care as long as it's literally between two consenting adults. Do whatever you want. And that was kind of like part of the point of that episode is to share like some of our stories and just like sexual experiences and stuff like that, or just like funny things that happen. Like my first time ever seeing hentai was in 8th grade on a computer lab screen because somebody decided to basically, at the time we didn't have a word for it, but like troll the class and just put that shit on one of the monitors. And then the teacher is like, what the hell is that? She's trying to get off the monitor. And they did something to lock the keyboard too. I'll never forget, one of the kids I know, he had a flash drive that if you plugged the flash drive into an open slot or like a floppy, I don't know what it was, but if you plug this flash drive into a slot, it would make it where the keyboard of that computer would not work. Like it just would not function until you took the flash drive out. So
it's funny the amount of crazy shit people like. It's interesting because the internet is so much more accessible now, and on top of that, it has so much more securities. Like Windows itself,
Yeah.
the securities and protections it has just naturally are so much more than it was back then. But people would be able to just do anything. Like you could just get somebody to open an email because now I don't think it's unless you like actually click on download something from an email. But before you could like just opening an email could put a virus on your computer, whereas now that's not really possible. So like the amount of things like people could do in the early '90s or not early, not late '90s, early 2000s was like insane, and like being able to put hentai on your teacher's computer was wild.
Yes. So that was my first experience with that, and then we just talked about a lot of other things like kinks and all types of shit that people are into or whatever, and to each his own. Like OnlyFans, like I said, I am not against OnlyFans. I'm for people making their money. I subscribe to people's OnlyFans. I have a whole strategy on it. Kenny let me know about the brokenness of Reddit and how Reddit has a lot of free content on there that I really didn't know that Reddit was like a place, but then Kanye randomly said, it was either at the end of 2021 or maybe beginning of 2022, but Kanye was like, I get my OnlyFans content from Reddit.
Like Reddit's got everything.
He said that, and I could not believe it because he's at the time he was a billionaire saying like, I do not pay for OnlyFans porn, which is so funny to me though. Like he would say that, like you're a billionaire and you're like, I'm not paying for that shit.
Mad you said at the time because that also happened this year.
Yes.
Kanye's not a billionaire anymore.
Kanye went off the fucking deep end, and God, I don't even. It's just so much stress talking about that guy because we had a whole episode on Kanye West actually.
Yo, I hope that's another thing that happened this year is we started uploading the clips to YouTube.
Yes.
Clips of the podcast that go to YouTube, so you can see like the physical visual version of it. And so I uploaded one of our early episodes is a Kanye West episode, and we talk about various ups and downs of Kanye West. And I uploaded a clip of me defending Kanye West in a specific situation that happened a long time ago.
It's so funny because now
it happened around the same time he went off the current deep end, and so I just named the clip like "Don't sue me. This episode's old." Like,
yes.
like this is an old clip. Don't sue me. Like,
yeah, no, thank God because defending Kanye West at this point is just a fool's job. I can't with him, and it really sucks because he's literally one of my favorite artists. If not, before he literally lost his shit, probably was my number one artist. Period. Like literally some of the best music I've ever heard. Musical genius, and like obviously that stuff is all the same.
True.
His music is still brilliant and amazing and stuff like that. But then I just can't get behind Nazism. I can't get behind the anti-Semitism. I can't get behind even the anti-black rhetoric that he spews. Like it's all bad. Like everything that he's been saying is just nonsense. And at this point, for my own mental health, I've just been completely avoiding Kanye West content and just I don't want to see any more interviews. I don't want to hear any more hot takes. I don't want to see him. I don't want people to put a microphone in front of his face until he gets some help. That's my stance on it. I don't want to see Kanye West with a microphone in front of him until he gets some professional help. I think that he really needs it, and that's pretty much what I'll say on that. But yeah, good transition there.
There was what else? There was something that was just in my head that I wanted to bring up.
Well, if you don't have it in 3 seconds, I got a ton of shit still.
Okay. So, well, I do have The Boys came out this year.
Yeah, that was on my list. There you go.
All right. There it is. The Boys season 3, right?
Really good. Soldier Boy. That was an amazing season. The whole the compound V that like turns you into, it gives you power. So Huey ended up getting actual powers that season, and he gets naked when he teleports. He basically is Nightcrawler, right? That's like his power.
Yeah.
But they made it funny where he gets naked when it happens. Really good season. I actually enjoyed the build of it. Apparently, a lot of people have The Boys as like the best show that came out last year, which, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Well, I can't agree with that.
Because House of the Dragon came out last year, and I just instantly was like, wait a second. House of the Dragon came out last year. Like, how could that be and also Stranger Things season 4 came out last year too. And that's on my list as well.
And Stranger Things season 4 it's
the best season of Stranger Things.
Yeah, for me, it's the second best. Season 1 holds a special place, but I think season 1 is like I just think it was so special and like unique, and like what it was so nice. And then I've said this many times. I think season 2 and 3 are bad.
I think they're bad too.
I think season 4 is like so insanely fucking good that it's like
the fact that we waited a month for 2 episodes and those 2 episodes were also crack.
Yeah,
it, like, honestly, I still think about, I forget the kid's name now, which I feel bad about, but the guy who goes out doing a guitar solo when the bat's basically like Eddie. I love everything about season 4. The fact that they established a real villain, because it's one of my problems with anything that has a villain. If the villain comes out of nowhere and they're not developed well enough, it's just bad. It's my problem with Bleach's Thousand Blood War arc thing. Like, Yuha Bach is a trash villain, and I will die on this hill. We will talk about this when we do our Bleach episode, which is coming up. Yeah, I think Yuha Bach is just not a good villain. I think Jiren is not a good villain. I think anybody who just Kaguya is the worst. Like, she's actually in a tier. So like Yuha Bach gets way more development than Kaguya. So he's not. There are levels obviously of bad villains. But Kaguya is by far, I think Kaguya is the worst villain in all of anything fantasy for me. Like, I can't, off the top of my head right now, I can't think of a worse villain, because she's actually the villain. I can't think of a worse one than Kaguya. She doesn't speak. Oh, you know what? I can think of one. And it's also from one of the most tragic things that ever happened in anything fantasy. The fucking Night King is also terrible. You know what's funny? Him and Kaguya have the exact same thing in common. They never speak. Ever.
They don't ever speak.
And their motives are kind of like what? The whole show kind of exists outside. Like, if you think about it, you could actually watch all of Game of Thrones and remove the entire White Walker thing from Game of Thrones, and it would still be a fantastic show. Like, if you just take out the entire Night King premise and the White Walkers and all the zombie stuff, like, you could literally remove all of it. And you could either add something else in its place or flesh it out more or just do something completely different. And it will still, I promise you, with those characters and the world building and everything else, the drama between the humans is actually enough to carry the story without the Night King at all.
It's interesting because what you said is true. Like, Game of Thrones, everything, even without the White Walkers, is still amazing. And so if it wasn't there, all of that other stuff would still be good. The Red Wedding, etc. But I can't deny, like, especially early Game of Thrones, like, I did find the White Walker plot to be really interesting. It's just they when they got past the books, like many things, they kind of just floundered it, and
it got really bad. And Kaguya was clearly not originally thought of. Like, Kaguya, Hagoromo, Ashura, and whatever the other one was called, the fucking reincarnations of Sasuke and Naruto, or like the original versions of them apparently. Like, the whole ending of Naruto is just tragic. And not to make this into a whole thing about that, but my point was about Stranger Things and Vecna being a good villain, because we got a lot of backstory on him, how he came to be, and the fact that the villain that's been behind the scenes since pretty much the beginning of the show, they recontextualized season 1 in season 4.
And they made it fit nicely. It didn't feel like, even if it was, right, there's a possibility it wasn't ass pull, and they didn't have this thought of. However, sometimes when you do an ass pull, if you have a good enough writing team, you can make it still feel really good.
Yes.
Whereas some of these other things, like Kaguya, they are ass pulls that don't feel like they don't recontextualize anything. They're just like in the story now, and they kind of diminish all of the things that were good prior. Whereas Vecna doesn't diminish the things that were priorly in the story.
Yes. So Vecna is amazing because, again, he doesn't literally take away from, the show in general. Like, Kaguya takes away from Naruto in the sense that Madara being the last villain made a lot of sense. He's a character that you've known since the beginning. He's a great villain. He's a shit talker. He's strong. He's everything you need for a villain. He had a lot of development. You understand his motives. You understand why he's angry at the world. He literally experienced racism, his brother, war, all types of stuff that happened to him, right? So, like, Madara's motives are very clear and understood, and they've been flushed out, and you understand the will of fire and everything like that. But then you get to, like, this villain who comes out of nowhere, who was announced literally 20 chapters before her appearance, right? And there's like aliens involved and devil fruits and abilities that are just far beyond anything that Naruto should have ever entered, like absorbing. Just like the concept of every one of these aliens can absorb jutsu by putting their hand out. It's just boring. Like warping into different dimensions and space time. It's like, it got so far away from what made it good. And meanwhile, here's Vecna, who's like, actually, 11 didn't kill everybody in the opening of season 1. It was actually Vecna who tried to recruit her and get her on his side and stuff like that. And it just makes sense for the story. Like, she's not a real monster. Like, she does kill people. Don't get me wrong. That helicopter scene in season 4, like, she will kill you, but she didn't go on a murder spree as a child unprovoked or whatever, or just because she was angry about her treatment. Like, it was more to it, and they made it fit in such a way. That whole season, I cried. Okay, when that song, that what who's it?
Running up that hill.
Running up that hill.
Kate Bush.
Kate Bush. When that song came on as she's running away from Vecna, trying to get away. That shit made me literally tear up, man. Like that, because she like wanted to live and her friends were calling out to her. And then later on, when he starts to actually kill her and break her bones and he blinds her and she's like, I don't want to die and all that stuff. Man, I cried again. And then like, it was just an emotional ass season, a very emotional show, and just really, really, really good. Then they show you at the very end, like how she actually banished him to this other realm and all his skin gets like burned up and he merges with that fucking the Shadow Slayer, Mind Flayer thing. Really, it's just really good. Honestly, Stranger Things season 4 was one of the best shows that came out last year, which also I put that over. To me, Stranger Things season 4 was over The Boys, but that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. The Boys season 3 was it was a lot of fun. But that's my feeling with The Boys is like I like it, but it's one of those shows where to me it's a fun show. Like I enjoy The Boys, I like it, but I don't think it's as good as like House of the Dragon or Stranger Things season 4. I really like it a lot, but it's just like it's fun.
Yeah, and I really like season 3. Like, let's talk about The Boys a little bit more because it's not a shit on The Boys moment by any means. Like we both, like we said, we enjoyed it, we liked it, it's fun. I liked a lot of things that came out of it. Homelander basically being a version of Donald Trump because he realized that he has a cult-like following, like a loyal fan base where he could say anything and they will never turn on him. He could even kill someone, right? Because there was a point where people thought that Donald Trump lost the election when he said you can when they leaked that video or whatever, the audio of him saying you can grab women by the pussy.
Yep.
People thought that was going to be the end of Trump. There's no way he wins against Hillary now. He's a misogynist. All this other stuff, right? They were saying, oh, he's racist, he's misogynist, he's Islamophobic, he's all these things.
He's everything. He's everythingist and phobe. He's all of them, right?
He's a bigot, like everything that you could call him. They were like, there's no way he could win. And The Boys basically was a commentary on how it's scary when somebody is very famous because no matter what they do, like Homelander killed someone, right? Granted, this person probably deserved it because he did attack his son. Like his actual son got hit by something, if I'm not mistaken. And he like lasered the guy instantly. And that's how people feel about their children. People will literally kill you about their kids in real life. Like that's a not fantasy thing. People will literally kill you over their kids. Not saying that's right, obviously.
But I'm not saying it's right, but it's a thing that could happen. And if most mothers, like I'll even say mothers because they, mothers have that thing where like they're considered to be even more feral for their children, right?
Yes, every mother.
If any mother had fucking laser vision and you like hit their kid, like you'd probably get laser visioned. Like they would just do it to you.
I agree. So seeing season 3 where seasons 1 and season 2, there were a lot of moments where people would use the whole flight incident where he didn't save those people as a way to control him. And he's always been in check because he was afraid of public opinion. And season 3 was showing what happens when the cuffs are off. And I love that. I love the whole scene where he said, you can release that footage. And, maybe it will ruin me. Maybe the public perception will be that they all hate me. But after that, I might just get angry and fucking, I don't know, take New York off the fucking map. And when the way he said that, like, I might just take New York off the fucking map. The thought of that was so wild that I was like, yo, this guy is broken. Like, because he's an unchecked Superman in reality. Like, no one can really beat him. And just imagine if Superman was evil. That's basically what Homelander is. Or like evil was a strong word, but imagine if Superman was human, right? Because Superman is like such a righteous and noble guy all the time. He basically doesn't have a bad bone in his body, which is kind of annoying. But like,
he's a Boy Scout.
Exactly. Homelander, on the other hand, is a very realistic. If a person has absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? So him being as powerful as he is, I think it's more realistic that Homelander is the way he is. Not just because of his horrible upbringing where he was like experimenting on all that stuff. I think that it makes sense that somebody who realizes, holy shit, I'm the strongest being on the entire planet, there's going to be a bit of a corrupted mind or a twisted mind going on. So he starts talking about like, maybe I'll just fucking knock New York off the map. And they get scared because they realize, oh God, if we were to push him to the edge, then what?
Yeah, like how many people, I think he says like how many people would I kill before you guys stopped me? Or something like that. Like, Or even if they could stop him. I don't remember, but he makes it clear.
I think that you might be thinking of Shigaraki when you say that. Because
Oh,
Shigaraki.
I am thinking of Shigaraki. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I am thinking of Shigaraki.
I
But
know
it's a similar thing.
It is.
It's a similar thing. Like you guys might stop me. You might do something to like impede me or put something against me. But how much damage am I going to do in the meantime?
Yes.
Like what's going to happen as a result?
I love our chemistry because the fact that I knew exactly what you were referencing, because we're doing a recap of 2022. And so obviously with us jumping from anime to video game to movie to TV show to everything, Yu-Gi-Oh! And all that stuff, it's not all very clear in our heads, right? Like it's just not all very clear. So some things are foggy. Like I literally couldn't remember the name of Rhaenyra's basically foil in House of the Dragon a second ago. Like I literally couldn't remember her name. And that's just the result of literally it being a while since I watched that show, and I've been watching new stuff now.
And we're talking about a bunch of topics at once.
Yeah. So when you said that, luckily I was able to be like, I remember that, but I remember from something different, and then kind of bring it all together. Anyway, but yeah, The Boys was good, and I love Homelander's character. I liked all of the backstory with him and Black Noir. Like that was a crazy reveal, and I liked
the Black Noir stuff was cool,
and the whole reveal with the cartoon and how he got like that. That was really interesting the way they did that. That was a good choice to just make it animated because I don't need to see him literally beat him to fucking his brain comes out. It was really cool to show that with little animated figures and stuff and what's going on in Black Noir's mind and how he's basically off because he's missing part of his brain. Everything that happened, just Maeve, even though I think she should have died. And that's part of the reason why I just can't consider that the best show I saw last year. Like Maeve should have died. That is one of my gripes with that season. Like she just should have died after she tackled Soldier Boy out the window of a fucking 60-foot building and he exploded on her, which takes away your powers instantly. And we know that. Like they gave us enough to where if I started a YouTube channel on The Boys, people do all little scaling videos and they'd be like, well, in this scene, and canonically this happens. Like I could do that with The Boys to basically not, I won't say destroy it, but to poke holes in the plot.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it was like a nuke. Like, if I remember correctly, they put it this way: they thought, and whether or not it wasn't necessarily proven, but they thought and had a good reason to think that Soldier Boy going nuclear would kill Homelander.
Yes.
So it should have killed Maeve.
There you go. That's even more to the point. Despite the fact that they showed it be used on, I forget the Asian chick's name who was she can't speak, but I
don't remember her name either.
His Soldier Boy's powers were used on her earlier in the season just to show what they do. She was basically used as a way to see how it works, and instantly she couldn't heal anymore, and that's her power. Instantly she could not heal. So it really annoyed me when Maeve got exploded on from 60 fucking stories in the air, and she just lands and survives with some broken bones. I'm like, what the fuck? Doesn't make any sense. Why is this character so what is going to be the point of her character going forward? And I never like when someone lives longer than they should in any show. There's oftentimes where it's a character should have died and they don't. And then it starts to get kind of bad because why is this character still alive? They're past the point.
And it's it puts a button on their character. It puts a ribbon. It's a detriment to the character and to the writing because at the time, you feel bad if you're a fan of said character that dies, right? But when a character's arc is completed and then they're included in future iterations of the story, usually it's just to the detriment of the character. It doesn't add anything to the character. It just kind of makes them worse in the overall writing. And it impacts the writing of this is the problem with a lot of CW shows, right? If you watch the CW superhero shows like The Flash and Arrow, they'll have these really traumatic, dramatic moments that has this crescendo. And people die. But then, 2 episodes later, they're back and they're fine, and it's the impact and the weight of everything that happened is just gone.
But yeah, characters overstaying their welcome is just never good for the story and for that character, and so I totally agree with you. So a few other things that 2022 had that I really enjoyed and I just wanted to bring up again. Odd Taxi was a really good anime. I did not expect to like it as much as I did. I didn't expect to even watch it at all. Thinking of the name of it, Odd Taxi, it doesn't even seem like something. And I say that a lot, and I'm realizing that you just really can't judge a book by its cover. But oftentimes I'll see a title like Jobless Reincarnation does not do it for me. That title does not, and I love Mushoku Tensei now, but the title of that show is not something that I would look at a list of titles of things that you could watch. Somebody was like, here are all the things you could watch. it would never be like, I want to watch Jobless Reincarnation. It would never be, I want to watch Odd Taxi. So I say all to say, like, Odd Taxi was amazing. Also, I did start watching Mushoku Tensei last year, so that was also really fucking good. And yeah, Odd Taxi was cool because for the whole show, basically, all the characters are shown as animals. And then you come to find out, like, spoiler alert, but like you come to find out that the main character actually has a condition where he sees everyone, including himself, as an animal to just kind of help him cope with the world and how harsh his reality was, because his like parents tried to essentially kill him in a triple suicide attempt, some crazy shit like that. So that whole show also has like a murder mystery aspect to it, because it starts off, it kind of is like White Lotus in a weird way to draw a line between the two. It starts off though with a murder mystery, and you're wondering, like, you know who died in that case, but you don't know who killed her. And you don't find out until the very end. So that's really cool. And I like murder mysteries. I think Kenny also likes murder mysteries. And that's kind of why he was saying White Lotus. Yeah. Once I brought that point up, he was like, yeah, I really want to watch it now, because murder mysteries just get us.
Yeah, they're cool. I like them. I don't even know if I can talk right now, but
no, you can. You seem to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, no, they're cool. Odd Taxi is awesome. It's cool because it starts off and things happen, and then like the way it plays out, it does almost it puts the thought in your head that, like, did the main character kill this girl?
Yeah.
Like on one end, I'm like, I don't think the main character killed her, but they do enough to put the thought there. We're like, he could have killed her.
And he's weird too, but you don't know why he's weird. Like, he does a lot of things where he picks up people. He says things that are really off-putting sometimes, and he also gets weird questions and he answers them even weirder. Like the one guy who gets into the back of his car, he's one of my favorite characters because he's such a real 2022 person, but he's the one guy who's all about social media and going viral. Mm-hmm. The guy who will do anything for clout. And honestly, the entire anime is like a commentary on today's society where people will do anything for clout. And so this guy's like, yo, give me something that'll go viral. Like, why don't you like say this and I'll react to it? So he wants to create a fake moment to go viral. And we see a lot of this bullshit online. I actually hate it. It's cringe to me when people do things. Oh, it's so cringe. When people do things like they record videos, and you could tell, like, if you have a brain, you can tell that the video is not authentic. This situation, you didn't happen to be recording when this exact thing happened, and organically this moment just came together. For example, I just saw one literally 2 days ago. It was on Instagram, and it was a guy going up an escalator, and it was a couple coming down the escalator, right? So it's a guy and his girl on one side, they're going down, and this one guy who's being recorded clearly is going up. And as the guy who's going up looks over, he's like, damn, at the girl, right? So as he's basically talking to someone's girlfriend or sexual, like, you know, he's hypersexualizing her. And I think he literally reaches over to like touch the girl physically as he's going up the escalator, as she's coming down, while the boyfriend is right there. The boyfriend grabs the guy instantly, slams him over to the other side of the escalator on the actual escalator steps. Now, granted, that part would, like, he literally did slam him, but it was for the sake of the video, for the shock factor and everything like that.
Yeah.
And the whole moment's caught on camera, and it's so cringe because you know that it's like they're friends. They're all friends, and you could tell they're friends because the way the girl reacts when he gets slammed on the other side, she's like kind of laughing, and it just gives the whole thing away. Like, everyone's not acting on the same level here. And so she doesn't have a real reaction to it like a person in that situation actually would react. And so the whole thing is just scripted and it's fake. And everyone in the comments is like, this is fucking cringe. And that's how I feel, because they want to go viral. They want a lot of views, and they probably did get a lot of views, and they probably did go viral because I ended up seeing it. But like, it's just not organic. And Odd Taxi is a commentary on how people will do anything to basically be internet famous. And that's just like one of the themes captured in it. And I really thought that the anime was really well done. I never expected to like it.
And it just kind of came out of nowhere. And it fucking, it is. It's cool because it's such a understated anime too. Like, it is one of my favorite things I've seen this year.
Yep.
But it's so understated that, like, off the top of your head, it's hard to remember to mention it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just because it's really chill.
Well, the reason why I even remembered it is because I went through I just scrolled our list of episodes that we did in 2022, and I was like, oh shit, Odd Taxi.
Yeah, and that shit was good.
Yep.
There was a lot of I mean, we already said God of War came out this year. Chris Rock got slapped this year.
Yep. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak came out in 2022, and that was huge for us. We played the fuck out of that game.
I have I think my save file has well over 1,000 hours on
Yours
Monster Hunter.
does. Yours does, and I think mine is approaching it. Yours 100% does because I remember you were some amount of hours ahead of me, and then I remember seeing you play on stream, like I was watching Twitch, and you were like past 900 when you like loaded up at some point. You were past 900, and then you played more obviously after that because it wasn't.
Yeah.
We both stopped playing after a point, but yeah, so definitely over 1,000 for you, and I think I am right behind you in like the high 800, 900 range maybe. I know I'm very high up there because I screenshot it and I sent it to somebody towards the end of me playing, and just that game took up a lot of our time and it was amazing. I really like a lot of things they did with Sunbreak. The title updates have been also really good. I think that the title update number 2 was the last one we played, I believe, was we didn't play title update 3 yet. But title
Yeah, the
update
last
2,
one we really played was the one that had Risen Chameleos, I think.
yes. So title update 2, if I'm not mistaken, was really, really good with the system where you can like essentially Monster Hunter used to be so focused on having a god charm, a god talisman, and they just made it where that doesn't really matter. Like you act because there's only so many things you actually need on a build for it to be optimal anyway. So, and like for min maxers, the fact that you can now put abilities, extra abilities into your armor at the cost of like, oh, I'll lose, I don't know, 10 points of defense. It doesn't matter. Everything one shots me anyway. Like I'm a gunner. So like you lose 10 points of defense and you gain spare shot in this armor piece that honestly just does not have spare shot in it. It should just not have that in there at all. When Kenny first started doing it, because he got to the system before me, he showed me his Ingo Greaves, which already have like 2 attack boosts and 2 crit eye or something crazy like that. And 2 level 1 slots. So these boots are still used in meta sets right now as I say this, like right now in 2023. But his ended up getting offensive guard and something else added to them. And it just made them even more broke because offensive guard is a level 3 decoration slot. So those boots could never have that.
I'm pretty sure the best Ingo Greaves I have are like what they are: attack 2, crit eye 2. I think it's like a level 2 value skill. And then on top of that, it's like a 2-1-1. Like the slots became a 2-1-1. Like it's insane.
Yes. So now, because of that, I started to redo all my builds, and it was very time consuming. Because just the amount of time it takes to like, okay, now I have this piece of armor, and then you get to an upgrade, and you're like, damn, I actually want to keep these the way they are, so I'll just buy the fucking armor again. And I found myself owning 4 copies of the Sinister Tassets, which is the waist, because that has Mail of Hellfire, I think. So I have 4 copies of that waist for Mail of Hellfire, because every time I would go to upgrade it, it would get an ability that I wasn't looking for, but now I'm like, damn, I didn't know I needed this, but now I need this. So it just expanded the game a lot, and I like the idea of the Risen monsters, even though I only fought one of them. I think that's really cool. The anomaly thing is they expanded on that a lot, and that's really awesome. And yeah, overall, it's just gotten better and better. Now, I will say this, I do find it very strange that apparently Monster Hunter Rise is coming out on every system now. Like in 2023, it's
on Xbox.
It's already on Xbox?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on Xbox now.
Okay, so it is coming to every single system, like PlayStation, Xbox. I think it's already on Steam. It's already on Steam, but yeah, it's going to be on everything, and that is just strange to me because I'm wondering why they waited to the end of the game's life, because the game only has like 1 title update left, I think, or like maybe 2, but I think it has like 1 title update left, and it's at the end of the game, and now you're like, oh, you can finally play. Like people on Xbox, right? If you're going to start on Xbox, because you can't move your save data between the games. So like I have my data. Me and Kenny are on Switch, and I would love to move the PC if I'm being honest. Like I would love to, and
Same.
like I would love to, but I can't because I'm not starting over. I'm just not, and I'm not going to do like, because on PC you can just cheat and give yourself whatever you want. So I could technically sit there and remake my box. I can remake all my armors, but I, 1, don't feel like doing that, and 2, I'm just not the kind of person to actually do that. So
it would be time consuming, but it changes what it feels like, because I earned everything on the Nintendo version.
Yes.
And so like even if I just recreate my save, it's like, where does it stop? Because then when I'm playing the PC version and I'm trying to like hunt for a charm, at some point in the back of my mind, I'm always going to be like, I could just give myself this charm.
Yeah.
I don't have to do all this work.
Yes. And so depending on what you want to play Monster Hunter for, it can ruin your experience to be able to just give yourself anything at any point. Like
because then there's no point.
Yeah, it can. And the point of Monster Hunter is to repetition, fight the monsters over and over and over again, get armors, get weapons, fashion hunting, all that stuff. It's whatever you make speed running, all these things. Now, if you're a speedrunner, obviously your world, your perception of the world is very different. You don't care about fighting the monsters over and over again for the sake of getting their armor and their weapons and stuff like that. You care about fighting them over and over again to get the fastest times to compete with people who are also speedrunners and then post your videos to show how awesome you are at the game. And that's cool. Like, I get it. A lot of people play on the PC, they give themselves the god charms, to give themselves the god armor, the god setups. And it's like, that's cool. But those videos are kind of annoying to watch because it's like, damn, I like killing monsters as fast as possible too, but I will never have a charm with attack boost 3, weakness exploit 2, and a 3/1/1. Like, I'll never have that charm. It's impossible. So.
And if you do get it, you should just be mad at yourself because you should have played the lottery.
That's also true. Like, there's honestly, at that point, like, there's no reason you should be spending your time on Monster Hunter. That should have been your lottery ticket to be a billionaire for real. Because the odds are the same. It might, honestly, the charm might be worse.
It fucking might be.
Yeah.
Speaking of things with odds, I want to talk about shiny Pokemon. Shiny Pokemon, the odds for them, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet just came out. It's interesting because something I like that Nintendo does is they'll announce a game and be like, it comes out this year. Like, a lot of time, like now there's cases like Zelda.
That's true.
Huge. They're huge games that are coming out a couple years ahead of time. But that's honestly, I feel like it's usually just Zelda. A lot of times Nintendo will be like, hey, this is a game we're working on, and it comes out in 8 months.
Yep.
And you're like, what the fuck? So anyway, Pokemon was announced this year. We did a podcast episode on the announcement of Pokemon Scarlet. And then it also came out this year, or last year. And I played it. I fucking love it. I think, aside from the performance issues with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I think it really is one of the best Pokemon games ever made. The game as a whole, everything about it is like insanely good. It's just, it has really, really bad performance, which kind of is frustrating, but the game itself is really good. And then I was going to say, like, in terms of odds, something I've been doing is like shiny hunting and trying to get shinies, and the general odds of shiny hunting is like 1 in 4,000, and then you can get the shiny charm, which doubles your chances in a vacuum because it makes it 2 in 4,000.
Okay.
But what I find interesting about it, and like, I don't know why I find this interesting, but what it does is it increases the integer by 1. It doesn't double your chances. So, for example, there's another thing that you can do that it increases your chances to like 6 in 4,000, right? And so if you do that method to increase your chances to like 6 in 4,000, and then you have the shiny charm, it makes it 7 in 4,000. So in this instance, it doesn't double your chances, but it still raises it by an integer and makes it more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because like, 1 to 2 is double, but 6 to 7 is not. But
it's interesting because some people will say the shiny charm doubles your chances, which is true in a vacuum, but not true when you add the other methods in. But anyway, it's just really fun.
Math, so I follow.
Yeah, it's fun messing with the numbers, and I think once you do everything, it goes from 1 in 4,000 to 1 in 500, which is like insane. And so it's just really fun to like.
Is that 1 in 500 some Pokemon Scarlet Violet shit only?
Not necessarily, no. Like there's a way to do it in a couple of the other Pokemon games.
Okay, because 1 in 500 is common at that point. Like that.
Yeah. It's like, a lot more obtainable. Newer Pokemon games have made it more obtainable to get shiny Pokemon.
Okay,
there's
1 in 500
rare,
is
but
really good.
Yeah, and so anyway, it's funny. Just like the other day, Jaden, he left his Switch at my dad's house, and so but he wanted to shiny hunt, so I let him play on my Switch, and then like within an hour he caught a shiny. Like he just like did the method, and then within an hour found the shiny and caught it. It's like
that's pretty cool.
It's so much more obtainable. It's really fun, man. It's a really fun game.
People who are into the new Pokemon games, they really enjoy it, despite the issues, the performance issues, stuff like that. Like, they really do enjoy the game. In fact, the person, again, who I was spending New Year's Eve with, told me that that's what he's doing right now. Like, he's playing fucking Pokemon Scarlet and Violet while I'm podcasting. He's like, I'm going to be playing this until you're done. I was like, all right, because he really loves it. He's like, what happened is, this is so funny. He's battling his friend, and his friend was beating him like 10 straight or some shit like that. He was getting bodied. And he said, damn, you beat my ass in Smash for several hours. And then after you beat me in Smash, I go to play my friend in Pokemon, and I get beat real bad in Pokemon as well. And he was like, I don't like this. Like, I am ass. Like, he's like, I'm some shit right now. Like, I'm cheeks. And so he said, I'm about to get in the hyperbolic Tom chamber. I'm about to start taking all this shit serious because y'all not just going to be like running trains on me and beating me and everything. And so he's been a little like down, but he's been a good sport about it. Like, because he wants to, he's not just giving up. But he's like, damn, I'm about to become a Pokemon pageant hunter or whatever. I said, what the fuck is that? He's like somebody who just hunts he's somebody who just like Pokemon trains, not to actually be a real trainer at battles, but he just gets the Pokemon because they look cool. Because he's like, I suck at being competitive, but
I can't lose in that.
Yes. So yesterday he told me that he beat his friend 8 or 9-0. And he figured things out. He's been studying, doing all the things that you need to do to be competitive, putting the time in. And I was really happy, but I was like, there you go, get you some wins. And yeah, so he's having a great time with it. And the game came out months ago now. Like it is now in January. The game came out in November. So people are still enjoying it. It's not just a burnout game, which is really good to see. And yeah, I despite the fact that I do not play Pokemon anymore, I can respect the fact that the game does look really fun. I'm sure I would have fun if I played it. It's just that like I still have a fucking laundry list of things that I have to play before certain things, and I'm still playing and all of that jazz.
You would certainly have fun, but it's understandable. Like it's just there's too many other things to do. Like you can't possibly have time to do everything.
Yep. And last couple things. So just to kind of wrap this episode up and not take too much of you guys' time. So I will say the last couple things on my list are my favorite movie that came out last year out of every movie was Wakanda Forever, which actually is coming to streaming on January 20th. And we will be doing a podcast episode after it comes out on streaming. So like shortly after, that'll be one of our episodes. Wakanda Forever was literally my favorite movie of 2022. I did not expect it to be at all. Like I literally did not expect that to be my favorite movie of the whole year. I did not.
I'm gonna watch the day it comes out on Disney. My favorite movie, so it's interesting. I have two different favorite movies. My favorite movie that I saw this year is Dragon Ball Superhero.
Okay.
But my favorite movie is the One Piece movie that I haven't saw yet because I already know that it's better. It's the One Piece movie. I didn't get a chance to see it yet because like our plans just didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
But I will be seeing it as soon as I get access to it, and I already know that that's going to be my favorite movie of 2022, even though I didn't get to see it in 2022.
That's fair. I really enjoyed Wakanda Forever, and I can't wait for Kenny to see it. I can't wait to do the podcast episode on it. I just was blown away by that. One Piece last year in 2022 in general, the manga, the anime,
cracked the fuck out, and the anime just cracked out too.
Both of those things, the Wano conclusion, everything that's going on. I'm not even going to talk about it in specifics because we have plenty of episodes. We even have an episode, I think, just talking about like the Wano arc and how for me it is the best. I think it is the best arc of all One Piece. And I know that people who are nostalgic and like people usually just tend to say something older is the best of all time. Like people still say Michael Jackson is like the best artist of all time. People still say Michael Jordan is the best basketball player of all time and stuff like that, right? And I get the nostalgia thing and all that, but like Wano arc for me is just because of what it requires to get to that point. It's kind of how I feel about Infinity War and Endgame. What has to go into No Way Home requires so much of the prior story that wasn't as developed as the Wano arc. You literally see fucking Gold Roger fighting in this. Like, it is crazy the things that are happening in the Wano arc. So for me, best arc, and also because I experienced it differently than other people. I know people who are frustrated or were frustrated with it. I was with Dressrosa because it dragged. For me, I binged read the Wano arc. So I didn't have this like 5-year experience of slowly reading it. Yeah. I read all the chapters of the arc in like a month. So to me, it was just like this insane fucking story.
And it just happens, yeah. There is that benefit of binging, man. Like, for example, as we've said before, the Bleach anime came back this year, and it kind of ignited me to want to reread Bleach, even though, like, I know where Bleach goes, and yes. I know that it went to a place that I didn't like, to the point where I kind of just, like, stopped reading it.
Yep.
And so I never properly finished the final arc of Bleach, but I got reignited. I was so excited for the anime. I reread, that's something I did to, like, cap off my end of the years. By the end of the year, I reread all of Bleach, and I even read up to the final arc, and I read all of that arc, which I'd never done to completion before. And, like, because I was able to binge it and read it straight through and not do it week to week, I was able to do it, and I enjoyed the entire process. Like, I enjoyed Bleach up until the last chapter on this reread. That does not mean that it was good, but...
Yes, and we will talk about that again.
But I enjoyed it.
When we get to the Bleach thing.
It's just, like, the benefit of binging, though, because when you know that, like, you didn't... I don't know. It's just, like, you just get to read it all the way through and just experience what happens next. And, like, when something annoying happens, you can kind of just move past it. But, Whereas like if you watch something week to week, you have to sit on that for a week and be like, are you fucking kidding me? That's what I waited a week for. Now I gotta wait another week to see what happens. And sometimes it can be annoying.
Yeah. No, I agree. Oh, that did not work the way I wanted it to. I tried to alt print screen because I wanted to get a screenshot. Let me see if this is working.
He wanted to get a screenshot of me acting a fool.
No,
My mouth open and shit.
Well, kinda, I guess. Like I was trying to get you in action.
It's Justin. Fraser wants my mouth open.
Not this. Not this. And now the alt print screen gives me the whole fucking, this is annoying. But anyways, I guess I'll do it the old fashioned way. So I am just going to do a snipping tool. There we go.
You know what's funny is I could tell you opened snipping tool because the light on your face got whiter.
Oh shit.
Because like snipping tool's white and like the way it does to your screen. So the brightness was different. And like I could tell that there was like a change. And I don't know, it's funny.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. The same thing happens on when I take selfies. I turn the brightness all the way up and I literally see like my own skin literally get brighter. So the picture can be taken better. This is kind of funny, but anyways, yeah. So that whole arc was amazing. And I was just really blown away by it, my ability to binge watch the whole thing because I hadn't read One Piece in a very long time, actually, leading up to that. I stopped, funnily enough, I did stop in the Wano arc, but years had passed and they were still in the Wano arc, or I guess at the end of it. But yeah, that was cool. Cyberpunk came out last year and we did a whole episode on that. I thought that was fantastic. God of War 2018, I finally finished it before God of War Ragnarok came out. And that game blew me away. Definitely one of the best games I've ever played ever. And the Loki reveal at the end with Atreus was fucking, the fact that was never spoiled for me. I got to experience,
that's still insane.
I got to experience that and be blown the fuck away going right into Ragnarok. Which I've been really enjoying, like so good. So I'm really happy that I got to finally finish God of War 2018 and that Ragnarok came out and I'm still playing through that. And that's pretty much like everything I have on my list. I'm sure that there's a lot of other things that we could talk about, but that's
there was a lot.
There was a lot. I mean, it's an entire year, but this is kind of like the primary things that really stood out last year. I think Rings of Power was trash. Don't at me, but I did not enjoy that show. And that's why you guys have not heard us talking about doing a podcast episode on it because I don't think Kenny's even interested in Rings of Power.
I want to see it. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Well, when you do see it, I guess it makes sense that we would do a podcast episode on it. So I will just I'll watch YouTube videos. I'm not rewatching that show, but I'll watch YouTube videos to recap it. And then we will do an episode on it if he ever does watch it. If it's just on a long list of things that we say we're going to do or never do.
Yeah.
I'm also
it might happen. I like Lord of the Rings, so I want to see it just off of that.
Yeah, because I know you hate Star Wars, but like Lord of the Rings, I am not a fan of Lord of the Rings, I'm realizing. I'll say this. I'm not a fan of Lord of the Rings if Rings of Power is a good representation of what Lord of the Rings is. That's what I'll say.
Okay, so I can't talk about Rings of Power, but I think the Lord of the Rings movies are good.
Okay.
And
so if Rings of Power is a representation of Lord of the Rings, then I will say I do not like Lord of the Rings. That is my stance.
And you mentioned Star Wars, and I just every time somebody mentions it, I have to remind the world that there are maybe 2 good Star Wars. Maybe 2.
Oh, it's
out
funny
of
you say
all
that.
maybe 2.
It's
like they all suck. Like Star Wars sucks. Like all of the movies suck, except for like maybe 2 of them. 2.5 if I'm real generous.
So it's so funny you say that because literally I think today or maybe it was yesterday when it was posted on Facebook, but Garen Williams, one of our longest Patreon supporters, literally has been a patron since August 2021. Just to put it in perspective. So I'm looking at it right now. I can see when everybody first joined. Garen is also one of my most fond Yu-Gi-Oh friends and just like a good person to talk to. He's one of the funniest people on Facebook. If you don't have him on Facebook, well, I shouldn't even tell you to add him because he's not the kind of person that will add you back. Anyway, Garen recently posted that can we stop pretending in 2020, like in 2023, I want people to stop pretending like the Star Wars movies are good. And like unprovoked, he just wrote that status like unprovoked. It was, and I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said is like, we got to stop pretending like any of the Star Wars trilogies are good. Like he's like, all of them are bad. Like you guys act like the prequel's bad, but he was like, let's stop acting like the original series is actually good because the original trilogy is also not good. I agree with him. I don't like, you can call it blasphemy or whatever. I like Star Wars, but I don't really like it because of the great story or anything like that. I like it because I like lightsabers and I like the Force. That is why I like it. And I like some of the fights. For example, one of the movies that Kenny is 100% referencing is Revenge of the Sith, when Obi-Wan and Anakin fight. That is 100% one of the movies he's talking about when he says it has maybe 2 good movies. Because that movie is actually watchable. It's actually a decent movie. And the rest of them, you will not hear me vouching and arguing and fighting people in the comment section of anywhere over Star Wars movies outside of that. Pretty much that one and like maybe Force Awakens or something like that. But yeah. Anyways, it's just funny you mentioned that Star Wars thing because just in the last 24 hours, I just commented on that and said, I agree with you. And I said, I'll take it a step further. I think the MCU, like I don't really like the Marvel movies, but I like a couple of them, like Winter Soldier, Infinity War, Endgame, Civil War, stuff like that. Like there's a couple of them that I think are brilliant, and No Way Home, if you consider that the same thing. I like some of them, and a lot of them I think are just mid or worse. And I said, I would say though that the MCU blows Star Wars out the water. Like it's not even close.
Oh,
like,
I mean, I sadly I don't even know. It's not sadly, like I agree because I think on one end, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if this is true anymore because I feel like Star Wars randomly bloated and out of nowhere, a lot of Star Wars movies came into existence. But what I was going to say is that there's so many more Marvel movies, which now that I said that, I don't, once again, I don't know if that's true. There's so many more Marvel movies, so maybe there's a better chance there being better ones. But I think there are so many more good Marvel movies than there are Star Wars movies because I think Star Wars movies are really bad.
Yeah, like and that was the conversation that Garen and I had after I mentioned the MCU. I said the MCU spites, like literally spites, and I don't even think the MCU is that good. So for the MCU to spite like all of Star Wars, in my opinion, and I don't even think the MCU is like that cracked outside of like Infinity War and Endgame are in a tier of their own. Like they're some of the best movies I've ever seen, period. And I can't really say that about any Star Wars movie I've ever seen. Like I can't. But anyway, we're off on a tangent at this point. Let's wrap this one up. Guys, thank you so much.
If you really like Star Wars, I'm sorry, but it sucks.
I mean, I will say this though. It's something that I still want to do. Kenny, I mentioned this a long time ago, but they came out with this animated series, which Star Wars animated series are actually good. Like Clone Wars and stuff like that.
Yeah, Clone Wars is insane.
Bro, the
not movies of Star Wars is good. The not movies of Star Wars are good.
Okay, good. We're on the same page there. So at some point in 2023, I'm going to force you to watch that 15 episode. They're like little 15-minute shorts, but they're animated and they're all done by different studios. So all of the art styles and all of the animation is completely different episode to episode. But when I tell you, like I didn't finish it yet, actually. I watched it like last year, I guess when it came out or whenever it came out. I watched like the first 8 and they were amazing. Like they were just fucking. The first one is like in this cool sketch art looking thing, but the lightsabers are like in a different art style. And oh my God, it's so actually good. Like no cap, that animated series, I forget what it's called, Star Wars something.
It's on Disney Plus though, I think, right? Like, it's probably easy to find.
It is. You could find it really easily. When I tell you that those shorts, again, none of the episodes are anywhere near close to 30 minutes. They're very short. So you could binge like basically the whole thing if you wanted to, but they're really good. And I actually plan to finish it whenever we decide that we're actually going to like.
And I've heard like the Disney Plus Star Wars shows are good.
Same.
Like, I've heard those shows are actually good.
And Garen agreed on that too. Like the Mandalorian is actually just fucking good. Like I genuinely enjoyed The Mandalorian. And I heard that this new show that just came out in 2022 called Andor, I heard that's good too, but I don't know anything about it and I haven't watched it yet. But I plan to because I do watch Star Wars content.
From my experience, the books, the cartoons, the anime, if you want to call them that, the video games of Star Wars actually do have a lot of really good quality. It's just that the movies get a level of reverence that is wild to me because like most of the movies are bad.
It's this nostalgia thing though. Like a lot of people who say that, they grew up with, like they're older now. They grew up with Star Wars and literally that was the most insane. It was their Game of Thrones. Like, bro, the way we talk about Game of Thrones, now granted, I think Game of Thrones is going to age way better than Star Wars. But like the way you and I feel about Game of Thrones, because we literally grew up with Game of Thrones in a way, right? It's been on since 2011.
We were adults when it came out, but so much time has passed. It's like we grew up with it. Yeah,
we were at a perfect age for it though. Like we were in our early 20s when Game of Thrones was airing, and that's good because that's when you can understand really high level concepts, shade, stuff like that, like subtext. Because there's a lot of stuff that's said in Game of Thrones that are like, I don't think my younger self would have understood what's really being said here. And not to get too like into it, but yeah, I think that they hold on to it because it was absurd in the 70s. Like in the 70s, that shit had to be the most insane thing you've ever seen. But for us, it's like, this just isn't it.
That's true. My only counterpoint to that is that I've watched anime from like the 70s and 80s that I think are still amazing.
Not everything ages the same, and that's why I said the Game of Thrones thing. Like I agree with you though. I'm with you, King. I'm with you.
I'm sorry, but if you like Star Wars,
yeah,
I don't like you.
Sucks for you.
I'm kidding.
Okay, before we get out of here, as always, I do need to give a shout out to our patrons.
Yes, sir.
Thank you guys so much for supporting the IMNerd podcast. I really appreciate it. Kenny, we really appreciate the fact that you guys have been supporting us. Also, just as this episode was being recorded, I uploaded another episode of Two Masters, this one featuring Hydro Pump. So check that out if you're on our Patreon. And we have 43 patrons right now, which is fucking amazing. Like, we've been doing this for less than 2 years. There are 43 people who are literally helping to support this show. And they, I guess, love the exclusive content. I can't see another reason why you guys would be doing so. So anyways, without further ado, let me give a shout out to Connie, Austin, Leon, Quest, Garen, Xavier, Hylian, Dimitri, Alexander Brissett, Vinny Casello, Giovanni Avalos, Alex Flamer, Aaron Reynolds, CJ, WKDad1, Dan Variable, First to Home, Dallas Fernandez, S. Akuma, Mitchell Nels, Midwest Gaming, Dimitri Safirdas, Vince Marquette, Dallas Bailey, Roz Weiss, Nick Stengo, Hansel, Vincent Zen, Sarah Maria, Funny Top Cut Podcast, Alex Ahern, Philip Campa, Jalen Haskins, Arali Melfi Slump, Kang Petty, Chris Lynn, Jeff Loang, Blake Jeffrey Smith, Connor LK, MSW 2389, Edison Club, Kyle Botelho, Brandon Moore, and before I forget, Hansel, our two-time national champion. Let me correct myself, because we always say it, even though it's funny, I actually said it in this episode in the beginning when I announced all the guests that we had last year, but I said it twice this episode now. But yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast, and especially special shout out to everyone who joined in December. There are actually a lot of you. It looks like we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We had 7 people join in December, and that's a really good month for us. So thank you guys so much for that. And yeah, I hope to get more people. And if you are not in our Discord server, but you are a Patreon member, please message me, because I do send out a link to you guys when you sign up for the Patreon. At some point, I send it within like usually the first 24 hours. And not everybody clicks it immediately. Then I think it expires. So if that has happened to you, or if you're just not in it and you want to be, and you're on our Patreon, for sure, please message me. I will get you in there, no problem. It's not a big deal, and you will have access to it in perpetuity. Even after you are no longer a patron, you will still have access to it. So, yeah, with that being said, we are getting out of here, and as I always say, do the things that make you happy, and we will catch you in the next one.
So long, 2022, and Gay Bowser.
So long, 2022.